stuff
Yep.
like, you know.
Five, four, three, two, one.
Hello and welcome to the Marlborough Regional Chamber of Commerce City Council debates. My name is Steve Messinio and I'm the President and CEO of the Marlborough Regional Chamber of Commerce. We're pleased to bring you this year's debate series. Our chamber is proud supporter of both the businesses and residents of Marlborough, and we appreciate the opportunity to host this debate. Before we get started, I'd like to thank the City of Marlborough, District Education Center, WMCT-TV, our moderator, timekeeper, and panelists for their efforts in bringing together tonight's debate. Also, thank you to the candidates who've put in the efforts running for a chance to serve as your city councilors for the City of Marlborough. I'd also like to take a moment to share with you a few upcoming events the Chamber of Commerce is running to support businesses and residents in our community. One of them is our Most Righteous Chamber Chowdown. It is a sweepstakes, an opportunity for people to win gift cards to our area restaurants, a significant number of gift cards, and the proceeds support our area high school students in terms of scholarships at the end of the year. I'd also like to remind everybody to visit our website and check out our events calendar, especially for our upcoming Veterans event on November 9th at the American Heritage Museum in Hudson. It is a fabulous event, and it's a great way for us to honor our veterans and the time they've served our country. So please join us and register for that event on our website. So that is all I got to offer there. So without further ado, I'd like to introduce our timekeeper and Government Affairs Chair, Emily Greenwood, President of EKG Networking. Emily.
Thank you, Steve. Thank you, Steve. Thank you to WMCT-TV for broadcasting this event, the City of Marlborough, as he said, District Education Center for hosting our debates here this evening, and thank you to the candidates and panelists for coming out. The Marlborough Regional Chamber of Commerce and the Government Affairs host these debates to help the residents make an informed choice. The Marlborough biennial municipal election will be November 1st. Also, to give you some idea on early voting hours, early voting will be open Saturday, October 28th from 9 to 3, Monday, October 30th from 9 to 6, Tuesday, October 31st from 9 to 4, Wednesday, November 1st from 7 a.m. to 4 p.m., Thursday, November 2nd from 9 a.m. to 4 p.m., Friday, November 3rd for 7 a.m. to 4 p.m. All early voting will be at City Hall, 140 Main Street during these times. Please check the website if you have any questions on that, because I spoke way too fast. Tonight's forum is being streamed and recorded live via WMCT-TV and will be available on demand. Our moderator for this evening, again, is Darlene Welch of Minuteman Press. Darlene has been a business owner in Marlborough of Minuteman Press since 2011. She's a member of the Board of Directors of the Marlborough Regional Chamber of Commerce and with the Massachusetts 4-H as the horse communication coach for 15 years, helping students become national champions 2012, 2019, and 2022. So she has the communications down, which we appreciate. Please welcome our moderator to introduce our candidates and panelists and explain the rules, Darlene Welch. Thank you.
Good evening, everyone. I would like to start by introducing our candidates and panelists for this evening's event. First, the panelists. We have Robert Gustafson from Triton Financial, Julie Brown-Dahlbeck from Marlborough Wellness Center. Both of these are business owners in the City of Marlborough and members of the Marlborough Regional Chamber of Commerce. Next, our candidates participating in the debate. Please note, political affiliations do not matter in the municipal election. Because the question has been asked when the chamber reached out for questions, we are introducing the candidates with their political affiliations. We have David Doucette, Ward 2 Councilor, Democrat. We have James M. Jumonville, he's an independent. Thomas Edward Dalton is a Democrat. Tiona C. Brown, Ward 4 Councilor, is an independent. Maureen A. Brennan is a Democrat. Albert Trey Fuccello is a Democrat. Donald R. Landers Sr. is a Ward 7 Councilor, a Democrat. Harmony Larson is an independent. Michael Henry Ossing is President-at-Large Councilor, is a Democrat. Sean A. Navin is a Ward 6 Councilor, a Democrat. Kathleen Diane Roby is Vice President-at-Large Councilor, is an independent. Mark A. Oram, at-large Councilor and an independent. And Scott M. King, an independent. And I apologize if I messed up everyone's name. For the purpose of this debate, I'm going to address all of you by your first name, and I hope you don't mind. Before we begin, I'd like to go over the format for this debate. First, members of the audience. You are only allowed to clap when a candidate has finished their introduction and at the end when they have completed their closing statements. All other times, I ask you to be courteous and remain silent. And can we also please make sure cell phones are on silent? Candidates, you will each have 2 minutes to introduce yourself. The first round, you each will be asked questions by the panelist. You will have 1 minute for your response, 30 seconds for a rebuttal. On the second round, each candidate will choose another candidate to ask a respectful question. Again, 1 minute for response and 30 seconds for rebuttal. If there is time after this segment, we will go back to the panel for additional questions. At the conclusion of the debate, all candidates will have 2 minutes for their closing statements, which will be in reverse alphabetical order, but there's only the two of you, so just go back and forth here.
That's fine.
I will ask each of you to be concise with your answers and respectful of your time and of each other. Okay, so we are going to begin with our Ward 2 counselors. So we'll start with,
Introductions first?
yeah, you're going to start with David.
Okay.
I already did
David,
that.
first question to you.
Do we do the introduction first? or the-
I'm sorry.
That's what I was asking. That's what I asked.
Long day, long day.
It's
We're
already
going to
late.
begin with, okay, we have David Doucette, our Ward 2 counselor, and James M.
Jumonville.
Jumaville. Okay, we'll start with
Opening,
Opening,
Bob.
opening statement.
Statements. I am so sorry.
Come on, Darlene, you're killing
you
us.
got this, girl, you got this.
I know, this is not, it's been a long day, it's
Love
been
you
a real
anyway.
day.
We got
Okay,
this.
let's start with David, please.
Thank you very much. Thank you for having the opportunity to be here. I thank the Chamber for putting this on. This is no small feat, and appreciate the work you guys have done to it. I also like to thank WMCT-TV. They've done an excellent job covering the campaign time this season, so good job, guys. And thank you to the counselors, the citizens of Ward 2 who have elected me in the last 4 elections. My name's Dave Doucette. I'm the Ward 2 City Council running for my 5th term representing Ward 2. And truly, it's been an honor and privilege to represent you folks in the City Council. I started working in Marlborough in '87 and at Digital Equipment Corporation at 200 Forest Street, which is now a bunch of other businesses. We moved into town in 1992. My wife and I have been married for 34 years. I have a daughter and a stepdaughter. Our daughter also lives in Ward 2 with a grandson and just got a second grandson a couple of weeks ago. So my oldest grandson is actually starting first grade in Kane School. And the other grandson will probably be attending Kane School as well. I have an electrical and computer engineering degree from Northeastern University, a bachelor's, and an MBA with high honors from Clark University. I've been involved in leadership roles in divisions of companies worth hundreds of millions of dollars. And now I just work at the Home Depot in my ward, so I live close enough that I actually go home for lunch. If I'm lucky, I have lunch with my wife. If I'm very lucky, my grandson's there too. And I enjoy working with the council and the mayor, just making sure that the budget is straight and the tax rate remains low. So thank you very much. I'm done.
Thank you. James?
I'm James Jumonville, and I live at 232 Phelps Street here in Marlborough. I've been in the city for 15 years with my wife, Doswita, and my grandson, Lucas, and her husband and wife, Anna Julia and Arilson. We all live there. I'm running for my grandson's sake because the national debt is on their shoulders, all our children. It's growing from $250,000 and growing each day. I'm concerned about that, and I'm concerned about the seniors that I see out and about having to get a second job to try to make ends meet. Those are my biggest concerns going forward, running. I've reached out to some of the businesses in the ward, and I've reached out going to the neighborhoods, knocking on doors. And what I learned is, well, I don't really know you, Jim, but then when I told them the term old school, they opened up. I was raised old school, I was educated old school, And that's what I am, is old school. And I believe with my PhD in finance I got from my parents. They were teenagers during the 30s, during the Depression, and they were young adults in the 40s when there was rationing. And I was educated that you paid for what you got, and if you couldn't, if you took a loan out, you look for the best deal you could get, and you honor those commitments when you sign to take out a loan. The other things I'm running for is 100% constituent service, help and care for our seniors, the wealth and the maintaining of our schools, our children and our teachers, get the West Side Fire Station completed, prioritizing the tax expenditures, because we're going to have a really rough time going forward from what I see with the city budget and what's all that's going on. And I want to maintain and fix our failing roads, because to me it's like driving around Baja, California in the town. So I think in the city, we got to really address that. So that's what I think I can bring to the table, is my lifelong experiences. So thank you so much.
Thank you. Now I think I got it straight now. So now we're going to start with the questions, and we're going to start with Bob.
All right. David, as the sitting councilor, what do you feel is the most important issue in Ward 2, and how would you address it?
So specifically for Ward 2, I would say that the pressing issue is how to address climate change. If in the last couple of months, there's actually been tremendous damage, not only on Farm Road, but Phelps Street. And a lot of it was caught the city off guard. It was a massive amount of rain in a very short amount of time. You know, the unprecedented 100-year flood that happens every 10 years now, type of thing. And I think that it's important that we address those issues. I'm actually chair of the Climate and Resiliency Committee, and I'm planning to set up a meeting of the Climate Resiliency Committee after the election to identify basically where are the weak places that need to be, vulnerable places need to be addressed within the city. And at least at this point, identify them and figure out what the plan of attack is to address them and make it better.
Okay. Thank you. Julie?
James, what do you feel is the most important issue in Ward 2, and how would you address it?
Well, I think the biggest issue in Ward 2, from what I'm hearing from people, is the kitchen table issues on how they're surviving, what they got to pay for gas, rent, utility bills, and everything like that. So moving forward, to be how to incorporate their feelings and what they feel should be done while addressing the needs of the budget for Ward 2 and for the city directly as a whole. We are going to go into tough financial times. Next year, there are going to be 3 unions that they're going to have to deal with, contract issues, and there's only so much money that can go around the tax dollar. It's divided between schools, police, fire, DPW, and then the general government, which is like your library, your senior center, and all your people that work at City Hall and places like that. So that's what I want to bring forward. If I'm going to pay for one thing, it's going to have to come from somebody else, and I want to make sure that we make the best decision for Ward 2 and the city as a whole.
Thank
Thank
you.
you.
Now we're going to do general questions.
Right.
Bob, you can ask the question.
Sure. What are your thoughts and plans for zoning in the city?
I'm going to start with you, David.
Okay. So I think that the way that the city is handling zoning has been effective in some cases, but not as effective in others. I think that there was a lot of work that had to be that needs to be addressed in clarifying the city overlay district downtown and making sure that is straightened out. The Wayside zoning district is it's my neck of the woods, that part of Route 20. And, the thing about zoning is it's more of a long-term play. Like, you don't change a zoning and then all of a sudden people start knocking on your door tomorrow to actually build things, You set up the zoning, you really don't see what comes out of it for 5 or 10 years, because people have to react and respond, developers, to say, oh, we can do this now, and then they've got to start doing planning. By the time it gets to us, it's years down the road. So, as we are right now, I think that we handle the situation well. The Red Rock zoning overlay, I think, is a brilliant example. Sorry.
Thank you. Jim, same question.
I think the issue should be more as what we can do for commercial than residential, meaning that in residential, if you've got a neighborhood, you're not going to, someone applies for a dog kennel, you're not going to put that there. But in commercial, you want to try to get the biggest bang for the buck to keep the tax rate growing for the city, yet not an influx of children and other services where we have to build another school or things like that. Most things would have to be done on a case-by-case basis, but I think the best thing to do would be to expand the commercial tax rate within reason, whatever area it's in, and cut back on the residential, i.e. because they demand more services than the commercial would.
Thank you. All right, Julie, your question?
The state is mandating each MBTA community, of which Marlborough is designated as one, to produce additional housing. Residents are uncomfortable with the level of development in their backyard. How do you balance those two challenges?
And Jim, you're going to start this question.
Well, on that issue, that is being a compelling issue, but like what they have just decided, a lot of people have been talking about open space, yet the McGee farm, they let go, that should have been used for open space. The city should have taken that. We should keep all the open space we possibly can. And as far as building more commercial things for the state, I'd like to know where they're going to go. We are flooded with condo places and apartment buildings now. There's more going up. I mean, I can't believe that we haven't done enough to satisfy the state. I'm not really up on the issue, but with all the buildings going up around the city, I think we're pretty much there. If not, we could probably, look to be relieved from that issue.
Okay, thank you. And David?
Thank you. Were you specifically asking about the affordable housing or just housing in general? Because I thought that
Can
the
you
state
repeat the
put more.
question?
It just says additional housing.
Okay.
It didn't,
Okay.
there's no specific affordable versus not.
Okay. I just wanted that.
No, thank you for asking, because I
Yeah,
realized
yeah.
that, yep.
Yeah. So, Marlborough is a great place to live, and a lot of people want to move here. When my wife and I decided to move into Marlborough in '92, one of the reasons is because it was so easy to get to everywhere, and that works both ways. If you live here, I've commuted to Cambridge, Boston, and all that stuff. And I think that attracts a lot of housing into into the area. The city has to continue to grow so that basically we can pay for the infrastructure that needs to be built. And it is a treadmill to some extent, trying to get something like that done. The type of housing that we're getting attracted in is actually pretty high-end. The Green District and the boroughs, if anyone took a look at that place, it's gorgeous. And there's a bunch of other ones as well. So I think that the balance has to be done, and it's tough to do, but that's something that we all work at. And at the very end, sometimes we agree to disagree on some of this stuff. That's what council's about.
Thank you. Okay, Bob, your next question?
What are your thoughts on the tax rate for residents and businesses?
David?
Sure. I think the staggered tax rate, having the residential tax rate lower than the business tax rate, is a great advantage to the city. I would hope that more people who live in the city, who work in the city, could live in the city, because there is still a lot of people that work here, even for the city, that have moved outside the city because they can't afford to live here. So, I think that the business rate is something that we still attract the best and brightest businesses coming in here. We just got the biotech company of Moderna to come in to do manufacturing. So we're doing something right. And I think that the long-term payoff, because we can put TIFs in place when businesses move in so that we can help them on the initial phase, and then they end up paying us in the long run, because once you set it up, you're not going to move. So.
Okay, thank you.
Can I have the
Jim?
question again? I want to see what's...
What are your thoughts on the tax rate for residents and businesses?
I think the tax rate is good the way it is. Businesses, I believe, if you look at it, would be better suited for Marlborough, because we're really maxed out residentially, because businesses, they pay for what they use, and then they spend their money here. Restaurants and in the stores and stuff like that, where residential, you're talking about children and more to, to the schools and overburden there, which we're already maxed out. So keeping the tax rate low for residential is extremely good, but I'd rather increase the commercial rate.
Okay, thank you. And Julie, next question.
Being a daughter of a veteran and a daughter-in-law of a veteran, what would be your plan to help veteran-owned businesses start and grow in Marlborough?
Jim?
Well, I think we could give some sort of tax incentive to have them with a business here in Marlborough. I mean, you see on the TV that they have those ads where they can get home loans at a reasonable rate. I think we could do the same thing here. As long as it's sustainable and the bank agrees. I mean, it'll be a win-win for everybody. So I don't see what the difficulty would that be, having veterans have businesses here in the city. I mean, they sell themselves, so in that they are servicing everybody, what's going on in the world. Everybody supports our veterans, so I think it'd be a worthwhile idea for Marlborough to expand that.
Okay. David?
Sure. So it depends upon the type of business that the person's doing. If it's a small business, and I think that there's opportunities with the Chamber, with MEDC, and actually with Veterans Affairs, trying to figure out what sort of options are available, what's available now to help it. If it's a bigger business that they're trying to do, that it's working towards a bigger footprint economic, then, back to MEDC and some of the other businesses, trying to align the funding. There's lots of options out there. It's more of an issue of navigation to find what's there, what's available for them, as far as resources and opportunities that they can take and acquire and use that to help build their business.
Okay, thank you. So we're going to move on to the segment where you both get to ask each other questions. So, David, would you like to go first?
Sure. Jim, I really just have one big question. In the speech that you did for Marlborough Cable, you referred to GoFundMe as ways of doing funding across the city. So have you done a GoFundMe, and if so, how effective was it?
No, I haven't done a GoFundMe, but the GoFundMe is about the issue and what people are willing to pay for. I just said that I believed that doing the skate park at $250,000, I believe, would be best done by a GoFundMe page. Everybody loves sports in this city. I mean, the Shamrocks are known worldwide. I think that would have been better done that way than to take the money from the grant that should have been used on water infrastructure or roads or something like that, than toward that. And the same with the dog park. I mean, everybody loves dogs in this community. I had one, we're gonna get another one. Fluffy passed away, but that was 150 Gs. That could have been done with a GoFundMe page. People always in this city donate, businesses and people, towards things they want. I think those two things could have been bestly served by raising money there. Where that money came from a grant, it should have been used for water infrastructure or the roads or something of that nature.
Okay, thank you. Jim?
Do I get a rebuttal?
Yes, you do. Go ahead.
Thank you very much.
30 seconds.
Okay, so the catch is GoFundMes typically don't work. 2016, the GoFundMe success rate was 16.8%. It went down to 7.8% in 2020. So it's not a solid source of income for any of the type of projects typically used for medical or personal issues, not government. The grants, if you have grants, those grants have to be spent a particular way. There are hooks on it. You can't take money from a grant and spend it on something else. So there's a whole process to make sure that a money from a grant is used for a particular project. So that's why that money from grants can't be used from other places.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Okay.
Can I speak to just that?
You want a rebuttal? Go ahead.
No, well, it's not a rebuttal. It's the issue, what it came up with was out of that grant money. And they used $2 million of that for Lake Williams walk trail around that. Me personally, I would have fought that tooth and nail, because the grant money was for infrastructure, for the water and sewer, and they used the $2 million for that. And I would have fought that, where David said, why are we dealing this? As I quoted him in the paper saying, why are we going over this with a fine-tooth comb? When you're talking millions of dollars, you use a fine-tooth comb and something else. I mean, that money's not always going to be there, and the biggest bang for the buck should be done for the taxpayers and the residents of the city. And me
Thank you.
personally, I just didn't
Thank you.
agree with that.
Okay, Jim, it's your turn to ask David a question.
Yeah, I got a question. We had just had a major project done on Farm Road, and David had mentioned about climate change and everything, and was affecting on Farm Road. But when they redid the road, and David had said in the paper that he was going to work with the DPW engineers and the city engineer, my question is, when they redid the road and they put the drainage line in there, why did they put a drainage line in that was too small to where it rains, it overflows, and people get flooded out on the bottom of Farm Road?
Okay, can I ask just a question? Are you talking about the original one or the one that just put in?
The one they just put in.
Okay, so the one they just put in is something that's temporary. And the reason why it was temporary, because basically, it's a work in progress. This was an old galvanized, culvert that collapsed, and when it collapsed, all the water basically.
Not the one near Kane School, the one down the other end of Farm Road.
This
They
is the
let
one.
him come-
This is the one with the steel plates on it right now. Okay, so the culvert collapsed. They had to pull that out. It took a week for them to work on it. I was there every day looking through the inspection of how the progress is being done and stuff like that. I have photos to show that. But the catch is that they needed to do a short-term fix now so that they have the time to actually look at how to fix it long-term, which is still going to take a year or two, because there has to be a whole new design to be done. And when the design is done, it's going to have to take into account additional water flow and all that stuff. But you can't design that stuff overnight. That's a longer-term design
Okay,
fix.
thank you.
I was discussing it down further at the end of the road near Broad Meadow, because when I went to those, knocked on doors and
Country
talked.
Lane?
When I talked to those people, they said the town engineer came to them and said the reason they're being flooded out is because the line that was put in was too small for drainage. So that's why I'm wondering why that wasn't addressed then, when he said the same thing to us when we were looking at the culvert, me and another
So-
resident, so.
Can I respond to that? Just as a quick, so in the case of Country Lane, first is, I've been working, that was in place before my watch. I have been working with DPW and with the people on that community, trying to get that fixed. And I've had numerous conversations with Tom DePercio to figure out how to fix it in a cost-effective way. And they tried one attempt. It wasn't as successful a work as they did. Hopefully, it can get fixed as part of a broader effort. But this drainage was put in long before my time.
Okay, thank you. All right, so let's go back and we'll have you ask one more question. Bob?
All right. This actually came up during the mayoral debate. A couple of Marlborough hotels are offering shelter to a large influx of immigrant families from countries in turmoil. How would you address that situation?
David?
I'm not sure how much the city council has power to actually influence that situation, to be honest. We've had discussions as part of providing some degree of social support for the immigrants. I think that, we still need to provide education, et cetera, for them, and a lot of them are going to the Kane School. So I think the influx of refugees from other countries into Marlborough is new, and it is really becoming socially disruptive, but I don't think that's necessarily always a negative thing. I think there's a lot of local businesses that could hire some of these immigrants at a reasonable rate, and because there's job crisis as well within the area.
All right.
Oh, my turn.
Jim?
The issue is ongoing, and I think it's going to become a problem because Mayor Adams and Governor Hochul in New York, Mayor Adams is hemorrhaging $12 million a day with immigrants. They're going to be bussed here. And make no mistake about it. We have the right to shelter law here, and we have ID cards, we have the driver's license, so they're going to end up here. They're going to dump pressure, and some of them are going to end up here. Now, the issue is, what you do is you call in your state senator and your two state reps, and you have them deal with Boston for you with that. That's how it gets done, because it's not going to happen at the Cape, because they're already off the Vineyard, and they're not going to get over the bridge, because those people down there are organized, and they're at the Bowen Rotary every weekend. So it's whoever makes the most noise, and that's how you address this issue, is to do it that way, because the governor already said by November 1st, all the places are going to be all maxed out, and that's a week from today.
Okay.
So we're going to have to deal with it, and that's the way I
Thank you.
approach it.
Okay, we have time for one more question, and then we'll go into closing remarks. Julie?
What committees do you feel you can make the strongest contribution to in the city, and why?
Jim?
Well, I think the best one for me would be urban affairs, on how to deal with permitting and whether people get the use of their property, business or residential that way. I like urban affairs. The other one would be veteran affairs. I mean, I'm keen in for that, onto that. As far as anything else, I don't know about how many committees we got, but those are about the two best that I think I'd like to address.
Thank you. And David?
Thank you. So the first committee I was involved with that was there's urban affairs and finance. Every freshman counselor goes to finance and for a couple of years and spends their time there learning their chops. And I was attending urban affairs, and I really got attracted to urban affairs, which I'm co-chair of now. It's looking at the long arc of development within the city, how things go. So, and I think I have some influence in that as far as just asking the right questions, making sure that some things get done. I'm also chair of climate resiliency. I think that that's important, but I think urban affairs is obviously a lot more important than that. So, but those are just the primary ones at this point.
Okay, thank you very much. Okay, so let's start with your closing remarks. You both have 2 minutes for your closing remarks, and we'll start with Jim.
Thank you for the Chamber for having us, and the TV station here in Marlborough for having us. I think there's a distinct contrast between me and Dave. I'm old school, and I believe I'm running on the kitchen table issues for the voters and the taxpayers. I think they're more concerned with paying their bills and their credit card bills going up and going into debt and wanting the biggest bang for their buck as far as dealing with issues with finance for the city and this and that. So I think I'd be the better suit for that. I mean, we have gone along, I've talked to people and this and that, and I just believe that there's a time for change, and the time is now, and nothing personal, but I just think I can bring a better conservative voice as far as finances to the board and what the people are going through now, because I'm sitting right there and going through it with them. I mean, I got 401ks and retirement and equity in the home as everybody else, but I'm living week to week too. And I think that's what everybody else is doing. And they just seem frustrated that the city is not working for them. Because like on the mayor debate, I thought the best line from what I'm hearing, everybody, was the very first line of the night, when I think it was Mr. Baker said, "I'm running because a lot of the people in the city feel forgotten." And that's kind of true. And it's about expenditures, about what we're wasting our time on, what we should be doing with our taxpayer money, getting the biggest bang for the buck. If I'm going to spend $100 of your money, I'm going to try to get you $200 worth. And if we're going to take any loan out, I'm going to make sure it gets paid off right away, and it's worth getting on the best percentage rate for doing that. But I think there should be a total overhaul of the budget, line by line, what we can do. If we're going to pay something, it's going to have to come from somebody else. Because like we talked about the migration problem, I think that's going to be a big issue for the city coming forward, which is basically out of our control.
Thank you. And David?
Thank you very much, and thank you for watching this debate. I hope that this debate helped the voters of Ward 2 decide who is the person that they want to vote for. I think that the experience that I bring to the table is very practical, very pragmatic. I have 30 years of high-tech experience with both business technology and business and accounting, financing. And I think that that's important experience to bring to the council. There are tough trade-offs to make on the budget, and that happens every year. But, the other part of it is how much do you want to second-guess the management team of the city as far as going down and line item vetoing a little thing that you may or may not understand the full scope of. So I think it's important that we understand how the budget works within the city, and we live within that budget. I think the city actually does a very good job maintaining that. And I think that, being on the council, bringing the perspective I do, just provides a balance to what's out there. I think that, democracy is really not a spectator sport. Everyone that is watching this needs to get out to vote, but also make sure that their friends in the city get out to vote as well. It's important that the people are engaged in the local community. There's a lot of people that don't think that they don't know how to ask for help, and I think if that's the case, they need to walk into the city and start seeing what sort of opportunities and options there are. There is Veterans Affairs representative for people who have veterans issue. I just called someone on that. But there's Disabilities Commission as well. So if you are having issues, then there is something there that's available from the city. You just need to go ask. I think that's important. Thank you.
Thank you very much, both candidates. And we will take our short break before we continue with Ward 4. Thank you.
Nicely done.
I'd like to welcome you all back. And before we start the Ward 4 Councilor debate, we have Tiona C. Brown, and we have Thomas Edward Dalton.
Thank you.
I'm going to go over the format. First, each candidate will have 2 minutes to introduce yourself. The first round, you will each be asked a question by the panelist. You will have 1 minute for your response and 30 seconds for a rebuttal. The second round, each candidate will ask each other a question. Again, you will have 1 minute for a response and 30 seconds for a rebuttal. If there is time after this segment, we will go back to the panelists to ask additional questions. At the conclusion of the debate, all candidates will have 2 minutes for their closing statements, and I will select which order you'll go in. And your timer, we have Emily timing, and so you'll have cards, and she will put up the time, so just be aware of it. We ask that all of you be concise with your answers and respectful of your time. So let's begin with the opening remarks, and we'll start with Tiona.
Thank you. I just want to thank the Chamber and WMCT-TV for having us here at the event. And I am the current Ward 4 counselor, and I'm very appreciative that the residents of Ward 4 gave me the opportunity to represent them for these past 2 years. And I've learned a whole lot. What I thought it was going to be when I started and what it is. There are some differences. Definitely hopeful to continue this journey and perform another 2 years in office so I can put what I've learned to work and serve the residents. Thank you.
Thank you. Okay, do you like to be called Thomas?
Tom's fine. Thank you. Hi, I'm Tom Dalton. I'd like to thank WMCT-TV and everybody that sponsored me and gave me the actual nomination to come tonight. Marlborough sure has changed. I've been involved in Marlborough since '72. My twin brother and I were both born at Marlborough Hospital. We were born on Easter Sunday, and just some of the things I've seen change is just heartbreaking. My ward and onto itself, the seniors are suffering due to COVID. They're still coming back with their fixed incomes. They're just really not doing as well as they'd like to be doing. They're fighting to get people more money, but every time you get more money, prices go up. So the fixed incomes of the seniors are going to be more affected, and that's my biggest concern is if somebody needs $20 an hour, that McDonald's order then goes up to 15, and it's just really hurting the impact of my seniors and their quality of life. What I can tell you is that my great-grandmother, Marion Barnes, was born here in Marlborough in 1871. So my family goes back many, many years through Marlborough, and we've just seen so many different things. I'm not happy as a walker either, walking down by the City Hall. There's no real pathways, and it's just a heartbreaking situation that I've been working through with myself and the seniors.
Thank you. Okay, we're ready to begin with the first round, and we'll start with you, Bob.
All right, Tom, what do you feel is the most important issue in Ward 4, and how would you address it?
Believe it or not, it's food insecurity. People are still coming back from COVID. Everybody thought that COVID was over, but two of my good friends from the Recovery Connection just went out again with COVID, and one woman actually had an aneurysm after she had COVID. Just people don't know how to get the food. People don't know that Our Father's Table right there on Main Street is open on Mondays and Thursdays. They don't realize that you can go out to Trinity Church on Saturday night for June's table at 5. They're afraid to go to the food pantry just because it's not their thing. I really want to educate my people and get them out there and get them healthy and well and feeling better.
Thank you. Julie?
Tiona, as a sitting councilor, what do you feel is the most important issue in Ward 4, and how would you address it?
So for me, the biggest current issue in Ward 4 is safety for a few different reasons. So we definitely have seen a population boom on the westernmost end of the city with many apartment buildings and continued growth. We have a lot more businesses on the western end of the city than we did before. And then also, as it had been mentioned in the last debate, with the hotels now also being used to home refugees, there are certain safety situations I've noticed with that, with pedestrian safety. I wanted to speak with Chief Georgie about potentially having more street lights, because where people are now walking, sometimes it's difficult to see them. And also the fire station being a big issue. I'm sure it's going to come up again. Thank you.
All right, thank you. Okay, now we're through. Julie?
Do you want me to start? Okay.
Yes.
Well, that's actually really funny because that's the question I have. We discussed a West Side Fire Station at the mayoral debates. Would you support it, and how do you feel the city gets it done?
Let's start with Tiona.
Thank you. I absolutely support a West Side Fire Station, and when the last round of talks about the fire station came about, and it was being looked at around the Elm Street Lock Drive area, I was in support of that, and several councilors were as well. From what my understanding is that it fell through because of potential business transactions, which is, not anybody's fault in particular. So I just really look forward to sitting with the new administration in the next term and really working on getting it done, finding a new site, if that's what needs to happen. And I'm ready for it. So, and I think whoever becomes mayor will also be ready for it as well. Thank you.
Thank you. Tom?
The block grant that we just got the other day, I think it was yesterday, it could have easily been used, for my understanding, for the fire department. What we're getting is a lot of people want the fire department where new wiring and new buildings have been built, and we can't do that. We have to go back to where older buildings and more people would benefit from the fire department and place the fire department there, and that's part of the conflict. Tiana, 2 years ago when she ran for Ward 4, also wanted the fire department, and I know the fire department is vastly expensive, but we've been hemming and hawing and not getting anything done. We just need to make a decision and get things done.
Do you want to rebuttal? No?
In my first response, or in my original response, I feel like it did kind of speak to that, where I feel like it was more part of a business transaction that fell through, and it did seem like the current administration had just decided that we wouldn't go forward during this particular term, and that it would be on the next administration to get it done.
Okay, thank you. Bob?
All right. So everyone thinks about taxes. What are your thoughts on the tax rate for residents and businesses?
Tom?
People, whether it be business or residents, they're just suffering right now. I just saw Acosta Foods, they filed Chapter 11 3 years ago, I think it was. And they're a big food conglomerate out of Jacksonville, Florida. If food isn't affected, then I know that every industry has been affected from COVID. And so to go tax crazy on both the businesses and the individuals, it's just really impacting their quality of life and what they're, how they can get things done and it's not the best idea at this point. Some of that ARPA money throughout the country has been misused. There must be a way that we can give everybody a break and help them to get back on their feet because we're about to have another round of COVID. I'd hate to announce it, but CHA itself told me, and that's a hospital affiliation in Cambridge.
Thank you, Tom. Tiona?
Thank you. So I feel pretty favorably about our residential and commercial tax rates and the split that we have. As a homeowner, I've seen the value of my home greatly increase, but our tax rates have remained pretty low. So for me, that is offset that expense, and I'm really appreciative of that. I feel like Mayor Vigent, being a CPA, his financial savvy has really come into play there. And I feel like both commercial and residential have been taken into consideration and that the current rates are fair.
Thank you.
Okay, so the question is, why do you want the job? Resume, experience, tell me, why do you want it?
Tiona?
Okay. Well, I'd love to continue this job. I grew up here in Marlborough, and when we were leaving elementary school in 5th grade in Bigelow, they asked us all what we want to be when we grow up. And this might not exactly be the job that I want now, but I decided I'd like to be the mayor of Marlborough. So maybe I don't want to be the mayor of Marlborough, but I absolutely love being a city councilor. I love when residents reach out to me over even the smallest of issues. It speaks to what I like to do in general, just helping people, making connections with people, helping them get connected to services they need. So I hope people have thought that I've done a great job at that and would like to continue, so thank you.
Tom?
After moving up to 496 Lincoln Street and witnessing some of the horrifying situations that have taken place in just a generalized area with multiple deaths between March and August, I decided to step up because my family has been affiliated with Marlborough for a very long time, well over 100 years, and to see things go just so poorly in a city, I decided to step up just to see if I could do something and if I could help people, and just some of the suffering, even people with bad contracts with all the flooding, and I just want to help the people because I feel so bad and heartfelt for them.
All right, thank you. Bob?
All right. How do you plan to maintain a business-friendly climate in the city?
Tom?
To begin with, you have to fix all the flooding down on Main Street. The mere fact that some of those businesses were there for over 30 years and had to move to other parts of the city is heartbreaking. The guy who owned the Eureka vacuum cleaner company, he broke my heart when he said I have to go because it's flooding and there's been no control of the foundation, and just you have to really build these people up and make them feel better, and if you're going to be renting them a building, you got to make sure that it's good quality places that they can work out of,
Okay. Tiona?
Thank you. I have gotten to know the people at MEDC since becoming a ward counselor, and I feel like between MEDC and also the work that the chamber does, that both of those entities are great resources for a counselor to reach out to see what the business needs are, or if there are questions from constituents about businesses. I've heard people ask about, why we don't have ABC available downtown, and I would love to see MEDC continue to work with some of the downtown landlords to try to get more variety for our residents.
Okay. So that's going to conclude the first part of our debate. And for the second segment, both of you get to ask each other a question. So, Tiona, would you like to start?
Sure, thank you. All right. Mr. Dalton, I read your patch questionnaire, and in one of your responses, you mentioned that you're seeking office to make Marlborough great again, and I was just wondering what changes you would propose to start working on that goal.
For one thing, I want to see what we can do about downtown or down city parking, because taking all that parking away in front of the city building was just harsh. People not thinking about the seniors and the fact that some of them can't even walk. It's just hard to see some of the redevelopment and the plans that have taken place. And I didn't know any of this was taking place, or I would have been at those meetings to say I object.
Thank you. I just had a quick response. I also share that same concern about parking. I grew up downtown on Newton Street, and one of the things I say is, I saw the parking garages get built to mitigate a situation, and the lot right across the street here built to mitigate a situation. So I'm in full agreement that, especially for our senior residents, the parking should be available.
Thank you.
Thank you. And Tom, your question for Tiona.
Yeah, the whole refugee and just shelters in general. Are you aware that the businesses, when I transferred my mail over to the shelter, they allowed me to do it no problem. When I tried to transfer it from the shelter to 496, USPS said that it was a business and they couldn't transfer it to 496.
I actually, thank you for asking that question. I was unaware of that. So that is something that I can also look into. I'm not sure if it has to do with any type of a federal mandate because of the Postal Service, but I'll definitely look into that. Thank you.
Thank you.
Okay. Anything else? Tom, you're all set?
Yes.
Okay, so we have some more questions, and we'll begin with Julie.
All right. What committees do you feel you can make the strongest contribution to in the city, and why?
Tom?
Definitely the veterans, and definitely urban community, and definitely something to do with the seniors. The reason why is because my heart is just, it bleeds for all these people. My grandfather came over from Warsaw, Poland as an immigrant. He was born in 1902, and when he came over, he joined the Army right away as an Army cook. I think he was only 14, don't hold me to it, but just he was a veteran, and my dad worked for Raytheon. So it's important to take care of the veterans first and foremost because you're a military family, but also the as far as the seniors, just some of their voices aren't being heard. Some of them don't have advocates, and some of them don't know who they turn to.
Okay.
Thank
Tiona?
you. Thank you. I think I made a new friend tonight because, so when my grandfather came from China, and he also enlisted in the U.S. Army and was a cook. Yeah. So that very interesting, interesting connection. So also the Veterans Council would be very interesting for me. My father was a veteran service agent for our officer for many years here in Marlborough, and so just watching him perform the work that he was so passionate about, I would absolutely love to continue to support the veterans of Marlborough, and I've really enjoyed being on the finance committee. I was in the business club in Marlborough High School. Accounting was my least favorite subject, but Mrs. Joan Ledoux was my favorite teacher. And so I did learn quite a bit, and I can put that knowledge to use.
All right, thank you. All right. Bob, do you have a question?
Let's see, yes, I do. What are your thoughts and plans for zoning in the city?
Tiona.
Thank you. So zoning touches on the other side of my family. My mom was the secretary for the zoning Board of Appeals for 35 years. She just retired in March. So dinner time conversations, a lot of time were about zoning. What I would like to see is taking a look at the existing zoning and if what it's already zoned for makes sense for the current neighborhood or area. So, for example, we just heard for Robin Hill Street, a request for an over 55 residential overlay. It's currently zoned limited industrial. I heard a lot of residents asking about or talking about traffic concerns and different types of concerns. So that makes me want to look at what could potentially go in a limited industrial. So I think those are important things to look at and consider.
Thank you. And Tom?
I have to be honest, I haven't given it much thought, but what I can tell you is that I've lived in a 55 and older with my mom, and those are all self-governed, and they're not as good as people think they are. Everybody thinks they're all gung-ho, but most of those people don't end up really enjoying themselves at the 55 and olders. Now, as far as the construction right there on Lincoln and Mechanic, we have nothing but rats running up the street. And people don't think of the neighbors when they want to put something in. They just think of their pocketbooks and how much they're going to make. So it's just heartbreaking to see some of the zoning and even the traffic. Traffic used to be an easy ride. I used to drive from Marlborough to Watertown because I worked in Watertown. And even driving, it's hectic. But a lot of that is due to the construction and all the all that's going on downtown, down the city, you know.
All right, thank you. I think we have time for one more question before closing remarks. And Julie.
Okay. What would be your plan to help veteran-owned businesses start and grow in Marlborough, since you're both passionate about the veterans?
Tom, I'll let you begin.
I would just give them a break overall, tax-wise, and not only would I give them a break, but I'd also try to get the residents of Marlborough to have a break if they shop through the veterans. I don't know what type of plan you could institute for that, but I know there could be one. But some of the things that I've seen, even with one of my friends, if a veteran owns their shop, they have to be very careful as to how they own it. Because say if it's a military shop that the veterans own, then sometimes the guys that come in through the military, if they don't have the proper ID as somebody that served or currently serving, then it can cause restrictions. So.
Okay. Tiana?
Thank you. I would work with the veteran community, the Veterans Council, and try to get a feel for what types of businesses veterans might be interested in opening as a starting point, and then seeing what types of programs may already exist to help them get started up. If there isn't already something in existence, then I would want to work with potentially a nonprofit, or maybe even see if somebody wanted to develop a nonprofit to start a program like that. I think that would be really important to, if a veteran wanted to open a business, especially in their own community, to be able to do it.
All right. Well, thank you very much. So now it's time for closing comments. And since I started with you, Tiona, I'm going to start with you, Tom. You have 2 minutes.
Thank you so much. My dad was a grant writer at MIT. He was born here, right here at Marlborough Hospital. The man was brilliant. what I'm thinking is Marlborough should reach out to some of these colleges who have the grant writers and see if they can't come up with grants that we could actually come up with to better the community and better just people overall. I know a lot of times grants go just left behind because people don't know that they're eligible or they don't realize that they can actually apply for one. As far as taking care of Marlborough, I've always loved Marlborough. It was so important for my twin and I to be born here in Marlborough. I'm the baby of 7, and just my family does a lot with Marlborough, the surrounding areas, so there'd be a lot of support or community outreach. As far as my brother, he was a chief of staff for a U.S. senator. So when the senators in Congress and whatnot come into Marlborough, I always make a point to come in and greet them. My grandfather actually sat on the stage as a Marlborough politician, Bill Dalton. He was on stage with Kennedy when Kennedy came to town. So basically, all that I'm saying is I have a real love for Marlborough, and I think that people that are suffering need somebody to advocate for them. And I think as a Ward 4 counselor, I'd be able to step it up and help people to have a better life and better just happiness and healthy mental set.
Thank you. And Tiona.
Thank you. I've really enjoyed the last couple of years, as I've said before, and thanks to the residents who elected me the first time, I would love to ask for your vote again. The most important reasons for me to continue representing Ward 4 and the city is I have my most immediate family here. Both of my parents still live here on Newton Street, and my husband, son, and I live on Milham, and my son attends Richer School. He's involved in Marlborough youth sports, and I help. I'm an assistant coach with Marlborough Youth Track. I don't like to promote myself as a runner. Some of you may have seen me. But I really enjoy this community, a lot of the things that we already have to offer, and I want to continue to be a part of its success and making it even better. Thank you.
Okay, thank you. Thank you both very much. And this concludes this segment for the Ward 4 counselor. We're going to take a short recess, and then we'll be back with Ward 6. Thank you.
Thank you.
2.
Welcome. We are here for the Ward 6 candidate debate. We have Maureen Brennan and Albert Trey Fuccello. Before we begin, though, I would like to go over the format. Each candidate, you will have 2 minutes to introduce yourselves. The first round, you each will be asked questions by the panelist. You will have 1 minute for your response, 30 seconds for a rebuttal. The second round, each candidate, you will ask each other a question. Again, 1 minute for a response and 30 seconds for a rebuttal. If there's time after this segment, we will go back to answering questions, additional questions from the panelists. And at the conclusion, you both will have 2 minutes to give closing statements. Timer is Emily, and she has cue cards up there, so just be aware of the time. And I ask all of you to just be concise with your answers and respectful to each other. So we're going to begin with opening statements, and I'm going to begin with Trey.
Thank you very much. I appreciate everybody being here tonight. I appreciate the Chamber for hosting tonight's event. My name is Albert Fuccello, but my neighbors call me Trey. I'm a lifelong resident of Marlborough and a lifelong resident of Ward 6. And while Ward 6 certainly has a lot to love, growing up as a kid, my neighbors instilled in me the values of public service and being a strong member of our community. I can remember being a young boy going and shoveling snow in my neighbor's driveway. Every snowstorm, I would wake up early, walk down the road to my elderly neighbor's house and shovel out her driveway. And as I would be there, more neighbors would come out and start shoveling snow alongside me. And then we'd go down to another neighbor's house who was a firefighter, and we knew how important it was that she get to work every day. And we'd shovel out her driveway. By the time we'd wrapped up, I'd walk back to my house and find that my neighbors across the street had shoveled my own driveway before going to work. It's those kind of stories that I hear every day in Ward 6 when I'm on the doors. It's those kind of stories that really create our community, and that's what I want to do. I want to foster that community, want to continue to grow our community, and make sure that we have a Marlborough that really cares about all of our neighbors. Because at the end of the day, that's what Ward 6 is. It's such a community-oriented place, and I've really loved growing up there. And I hope to have the opportunity to give back to our community. I've learned a lot from Ward 6. I think it's made me who I am today, and it's really the reason why I'm doing this. I think that if I lived anywhere else, I wouldn't be doing this. I'm running for City Council because I love our community, because I love Ward 6, and I know that there's a lot that we can do to grow. Thank you.
Thank you. Maureen.
Thank you. Thank you for the Chamber, the panelists, and our moderator for having this event. And thank you for the opportunity for me to be here. My name is Maureen Brennan, and I am running for Ward 6 City Councilor because I want the city of Marlborough to be a place where families, children, and seniors can thrive and succeed. I am a lifelong resident of Marlborough, the daughter of Bob and Vanjie Brennan. I grew up on Neal Street. That's where my parents lived. And I own a home now on Bolton Street in Marlborough. I live there with my husband Keith and our daughter Nicole. I recently moved my law practice here, and my husband has been operating a business here in the city of Marlborough for nearly 30 years. And my daughter attends the Marlborough Public Schools. We are very passionate about the success of Marlborough. Our roots run deep here, and we are committed to wanting Marlborough to succeed. My top 4 priorities are quality of life, city planning, preservation of open space, and environmental mitigation, and also responsive constituent services. I decided to run for office because I am passionate about making a positive impact on the lives of those in my community. I want to be a strong advocate for the values that matter the most to us, ensuring that our children have the best schools, recreational facilities, and opportunities, and that our residents have the support they need to thrive in our community. If I am so fortunate to be elected as your Ward 6 councilor, I will be a committed public servant who puts the needs of the community first and will be a strong advocate for Ward 6 and all residents of Marlborough. Thank you.
Thank you. All right, we're going to start with our round 1 questions, and we'll start with Bob.
Maureen, what do you feel is the most important issue in Ward 6, and how would you address it?
Well, there's a lot, I think, of issues in Ward 6. But in speaking with some of the residents, I think the most concerning is probably the development that's being proposed on the Sassyville Way area. for many reasons. It will have an ecological impact, an environmental impact. It will have an impact on traffic, and it will also have an impact on our schools. So it pivots in many different directions, the potential for that development. So I would say that that's probably because of that, because of the far-reaching effects of that development, that would probably be the most.
All right. Thank you. Julie?
Trey, what do you feel is the most important issue in Ward 6, and how would you address it?
Absolutely. I think the most important issue in Ward 6 and Marlborough as a whole, and even the Commonwealth of Massachusetts, is overdevelopment. You hit the nail on the head there. It's so important that we strike a balance between our commercial, our residential developments that are coming into our city. For me, it's a really big deal. Once developers come into our community, Sassville Way, I think, is probably the biggest development in Ward 6 that we are facing. I went to the public hearing on September 11th. I spoke in opposition to this project. I've met with the folks on Blazewood Ave. I've had conversations with them. I know how detrimental this can be to our community. That's why it's so important we have elected officials. We're going to stand up to those developments that don't make sense for our community. And so that's why, for me, overdevelopment really is the cornerstone, because it touches on all these things. It touches on environment, it touches on traffic, it touches on public safety, and it touches on taxpayers. It's a really big deal when we have new developments in our community and the effects it has on our affordable housing stock and our community as a whole.
Thank you. Okay, so general questions you both answer. Bob?
All right. Well, what are your thoughts and plans for zoning in the city?
Trey?
Absolutely. I mean, it's like I said, there's a lot of nuance to every development that we look at. There's a lot of nuance to when we have overlay changes. Obviously, the Sassville Way project, for example, is an overlay change, and then, if that goes through, there'll be a proposed development. But I think it's really important that the zoning in our city, we make a priority when it comes to affordable housing, when we have some of these new residential residential developments that are coming into our community, making sure that they make sense for us. 300 units on Sassville Way does not make sense for Ward 6, does not make sense for Marlborough. So striking that balance is going to be really important when we look at our zoning. I think that in the city, we want to make sure that we are able to control our local zoning. The city council, obviously, it's important that we stay above that 10% threshold set by 40B, and it's even more important that we expand our affordable housing opportunities while making sure that we're not growing too fast. So, yeah.
Thank you. Maureen?
I'm all for zoning changes where it makes sense, and you want to make sure that you're able to attract businesses in town. What we have here in Marlborough for our tax bases, we have a residential tax base and a commercial tax base, and we're able to keep our residential tax rate low because of the businesses that we're able to attract to the community. So I think it makes sense to change zoning where it allows for businesses to come into the city if necessary. I understand there's some restrictions in various areas of the city where businesses cannot build. And if it makes sense for the residents and it makes sense for the city, I think it's worth looking at changing those zoning areas. It's definitely a balancing act, but I think in some ways it would make sense, and in other ways, when it doesn't, I would definitely be opposed to it. So,
okay. Next question.
All right. What committees do you feel you can make the strongest contribution to in the city, and why?
Maureen?
Probably because of my background. I'm an attorney, so I would, even though it's a very dry area, probably legislative and legal affairs. Maybe the Rules Committee. Again, probably another dry committee as far as the subject is concerned. But that's probably where I would excel most.
Okay. Trey?
Yeah, I think for me, I would really like an opportunity to serve on the Veteran Services Committee. I'd like an opportunity to really work with our veterans in our community. I know that that's not a committee that often meets because of the fact that there are not a lot of ordinances or a lot of things that come before the City Council, but I do think it's the responsibility of our City Councilors to be on top of this. I've had the pleasure of working with several nonprofits like Sweats for Vets in our community. Many years ago, I reached out to Bob Kraft, actually, and sent him a letter and asked him to make a donation to Sweats for Vets, and we were able to capitalize on that opportunity. Sent many Patriot sweatshirts benefits to us. So having that kind of background, knowing our veteran community, meeting so many of those folks throughout this campaign and before that, I would love an opportunity to represent them and to serve for them. And I've known, the veterans agent in our community working at City Hall, getting to know some of the work that he does alongside our neighboring community of Sudbury, being able to work with them and see what they need. I would really, really cherish that opportunity.
Thank you. Okay, Bob.
All right. How do you plan to maintain a business-friendly climate in the city?
Trey?
Sure, absolutely. I think it starts with our Main Street businesses. For years now, we've had a lot of folks talking about revitalization downtown. A lot of politicians have said it before me, and it's something that comes up quite frequently. I would love to see us really tap into our potential in downtown Marlborough, and that goes by giving power back to our small business owners. It's not the other way around. The City Council should be there to help our small business owners, and so I think that we need to create a city infrastructure that really values small business, especially on Main Street and in our downtown district, and I think we have the power to do that. As city councilors, we're going to have the opportunity to really expand what downtown looks like in terms of city infrastructure, so sidewalks, walkability, making sure that it's kind of a friendly environment for folks to come down and giving small businesses the opportunity to succeed. And that's the job of the city council. I don't think it's the other way around. I think it's the city council creates the environment that our small businesses can thrive in, giving them more than just a seat at the table, having them give direction to us about what the small businesses need.
Thank you. And Maureen?
While I agree the Main Street area and the small businesses that are located there is vital to our community, we have a lot of small businesses throughout the city. And I agree that small businesses is the backbone of any city and any community. So we need to make sure that we're able to attract small businesses, maintain the small businesses that we have. We need to be able to create a relationship with these small business owners and continue to foster that relationship so that they want to stay. And if that means, finding ways to help them maintain what they have, stay where they are, creating a relationship with them, finding other agencies that can assist them when they have a need, I'm all for that. I think that it's the city council's responsibility to do that, and I would avidly be involved in that practice.
Thank you. Okay. Next question.
All right, well, you both have interest in the veterans. What would be your plan to help veteran-owned businesses start and grow in Marlborough?
Maureen?
So I think a tax incentive is probably first and foremost. Some tax incentive plan for the veterans to open up their business within Marlborough. I think it would be very important to have a hands-on approach with the veterans that want to open up a business here, provide them the resources necessary to open up a business here, lead them in the right direction to various agencies that can assist them with their needs, with their particular, business endeavors. I think those are what's most important. I think a lot of veterans in particular, but other people, sometimes when they want to open up a business, it's uncharted territory for a lot of people. It's hard. My husband owns a business here in Marlborough. I just moved my practice here from Clinton. It's not easy to open up a business or generate a move like that, and sometimes you need assistance, in particular the veterans. So I'm all for assisting them find the necessary ways to achieve their goals.
Thank you. And Trey?
Yeah, I think first it starts by recognizing that Marlborough as a community has more veterans than our surrounding communities. Compared to the Cambridge-Boston area, we have 20% more veterans per capita than those surrounding communities. So it's really important that we prioritize our veterans and that we give them an opportunity to succeed, especially in small businesses. For Marlborough in particular, it's going to be about meeting those veterans where they are. First and foremost. I've met several throughout our campaign, many of which who left high school to go serve. And so I'd love to set up some sort of program where they're able to get that high school diploma and then to be able to feel like the community that they fought so hard to serve is now serving them. And I think that's what's often lost. In terms of small business, it's important that we examine how us as city councilors can help them. I'm an open book when it comes to this sort of stuff. I'm very excited to get to work with them. We can lean on our finance committee and definitely lean on, us as a collective whole. There's 11 of us. I have no doubt that we can work hard to support our veterans and support what they want to do in our community. They served us. It's time for us to serve them.
Thank you. Okay, let's move on to the next segment where both of you get to ask each other questions. It's a fun part. Trey, we're going to start with you.
Sure, absolutely. First off, thank you for doing this. It's important that people hear us here. But my question is, I started my campaign back in May. Since then, I've been talking to a lot of voters on the doors. I've been talking about, my specific platform. You jumped into the race in August, and I'm very grateful for that. I think we need more people to be involved in our process. But I've noticed that your platform seems very similar to the one that I've been campaigning on. So my question is, what issues kind of set you apart?
As far as the issues are concerned, I think we're concerned about the same things. The residents are telling you what they're concerned about, and they're telling me what they're concerned about, and I think they're pretty much the same. I think where I would be able to tackle these problems better is my lifelong experience. I understand that you have lifelong experiences too, but mine are much longer. I don't often disclose my age, but it's out there if you Google it. So, I'm 57 years old. Through the years, I have experienced, many, how will I say it, challenges in life. And I'm a lawyer. I have 20 years of experience being a lawyer. So I think I'm equipped to manage effectively the problems that will be put before me and the problems that my constituents will come to me with. I am a problem solver by nature, and I would extend that to my constituents.
Thank you.
I then respond?
Yes, you
Gotcha.
can.
No, I completely understand the experience. I mean, for me, I've been working for the city for the last 2.5 years, so I think I have a good grasp of a lot of those issues that we've also faced as a community. Working for the city of Marlborough has been a real blessing of mine. I'm really grateful to be able to do that, and I do believe that experience is important, and that's why I think we need somebody who's been involved the last 2.5 years, somebody who's really been here for our city, here in the city of Marlborough. But I appreciate that, and I think those issues are incredibly important to all of us. I'm glad we're both tackling them, and I hope that we can really deliver for the folks at Ward 6.
Okay, Maureen.
Trey, it's kind of the same thing in response. I mean, yeah. So, what experiences do you have that make you believe that you are the right choice for Ward 6?
Yeah, absolutely. I mean, I'll reiterate I've been working for the city part-time here and there for the last 2.5 years. I've really gotten to see the insides of our city government and what it means to serve, what it means to be a servant leader. And that's what I really want to carry to the city council. I want to be able to continue that. I want to be able to continue to give back. I worked for the Housing Authority for a brief stint where I learned a lot about the affordability issues that folks face. And those issues really are multi-generational, whether you're somebody like me who's looking for their first home, or whether you're somebody who's lived in this community their whole life and is at retirement age and can't afford to retire, and is living on a fixed income and is being forced out of their homes, looking for, 667 housing, or looking for, any sort of affordable housing. Those wait lists are long. And we need folks who are going to bring compassion to that, people who have been involved in that, people who are ready to go. So that's for me, it's my experience with the city. That's what's driving me to do this. I've gotten to hear those issues even before announcing this campaign in May. I got to hear those issues while working at City Hall, while working at the Housing Authority. And so for me, that's, at the end of the day, that's really why I'm invested in this and why I believe I can deliver for the people of Ward 6.
Thank you.
Thank you. Okay. So I think we have some more questions, and both of you can ask.
Right. What are your thoughts on the tax rate for residents and businesses?
Maureen?
Well, I think the tax rate is beneficial for the residents. We attract a lot of businesses here in Marlborough. We have a split tax rate in Marlborough. So because we are able to attract a lot of businesses here in Marlborough, Marlborough's an attractive place to work. I keep using that word. But it's an attractive place to work and have employees come into our city, work here, spend money here. Because we have that commercial tax rate, we're able to keep the residential rate low. And I think that that's very important to maintain that. There obviously has to be a balancing act with both. Because when I speak with the residents in Marlborough, part of their concern is overdevelopment. And it's not just with the, residential overdevelopment. It has to do with commercial overdevelopment too, or development. I think the concern is that there is overdevelopment. And because of the commercial businesses that we have here, though, it's important that we have that, because it's important to maintain the low residential tax rate.
Thank you. Trey?
Yeah, seconding that. I mean, it is incredibly important that we keep the residential tax rate low. I think we've done a very good job recently as a city of Marlborough. I think this past administration, mayoral administration, has made it a priority to keep that residential tax rate low. Again, it's a balancing act. We want to attract businesses because that does give money back to our community. People come and they walk our downtown. They go to our restaurants. They stay in our hotels. I mean, I believe we have over 2,000 hotel rooms here in the city of Marlborough. So we're attracting not only people who are coming here for business, but then they stay in our community and they get to see our small businesses and they get to see our what's happening here. So it's definitely a balancing act. It's important that we maintain that balancing act. I think it's great that we've kept a AAA bond rating in the city for many years now. We got to carry on and continue that. I think that making sure that we're making smart investments as a city council is going to be paramount, and making sure that we're investing in parts of our community where businesses can grow and thrive, while also making sure that residents aren't paying too much in taxes.
All right, thank you.
Okay, so it is clear that you guys are passionate about what's happening in your district, okay? But let's go outside. The West Side Fire Station, it was discussed at the mayoral debates. Would you support it, and how do you feel the city gets it done?
First off, go ahead. We got to get it done. I mean, I think it's, I've talked to a lot of folks, even in Ward 6, a lot of firefighters who are very passionate. I got an opportunity to speak with some members of the firefighters union and to hear some of the needs that they have. And, you know, that side of town, response times are very low. Not only is that, but they have more responses to attend to. There's, obviously with the Apex Center, there's a lot more emergencies that are happening in our city, and it would be very detrimental if something terrible did happen. And that's the biggest concern from our firefighters. They're telling me that the last thing they want to see is a crisis happen in our city. And so building it has got to happen. I think that we need to work together. I know that money's been set aside for that project. I know a location was picked. I think we really got to put our heads together, all 11 city councilors and the mayor, and work together to make this happen. Not only just for the people over on that side of town, but for the people of Marlborough. It's just paramount. We got to get it done. I support it, and I'm ready to get to work. My sleeves are rolled up. Let's make it happen.
Okay, Maureen?
If you can believe it, the last time I ran, which was several years ago, this was a very high energized issue. It was an issue then, and it's still an issue now. It doesn't seem like we've made much progress. So it's important that we build a fire station on that side of town. It's a safety issue. The same concerns that existed several years ago when I ran exist today, and I would imagine that it's threefold at this point. The response time is longer. There's a lot of development down in that area. There's a lot that goes on down in that area, and I feel my husband owns a tow company in town. I have the radio's going all the time in my ears, and I hear the firefighters constantly responding to that area. Not that they don't respond to other areas of Marlborough on a constant basis, they do, but it's a long distance away from the fire department that currently exists. And the notion that we're still talking about this several years later, thank you.
Okay. All right, I think we have time for one more question before closing.
Do we?
Okay, then I'll ask a very
You got
simple
one?
one.
All
But
right.
pretty much I think we've got the answer, but why do you want the job? What is your resume experience?
Trey?
Absolutely. I mean, I'll go past resume and I'll talk about really this community. Ward 6 has shaped me in so many ways, and now I'm looking for an opportunity to shape it. I've gotten to know our neighbors for so long. I mean, this really is home. This is the best community that I could be a part of, and I want to make it better. I see a clear vision forward for our community. There's a lot that we can do to make it better. I think it's going to be investing in our small businesses is going to be paramount, making sure that we don't grow too fast. That's something that I hear all the time when I'm knocking on the doors, and really just getting the opportunity to talk to so many folks throughout this campaign has been so rewarding. And I'm really ready to get to work, because it's important that we have dedicated leaders, people who are going to show up and be there for you. And that's what I've been doing throughout this campaign. I've had the privilege. I answered a call actually just before I walked in here. I had a lady call me who had gotten one of my brochures and had some questions about some of the issues that I was talking about. And that has been huge for me. I really love that sort of work. I love constituent concerns, being able to talk issues with people and then find solutions to them, because that's what this is all about, finding solutions for the people of Ward 6.
Thank you. Maureen?
I want this job because I love this city and I think I can make a difference. I grew up in a family of public servants. When I was very little, my father was on the school committee. I can't remember the exact number of years, but it was around 18 years. He then was on the city council for I think it was a couple of terms on the city council. My uncle was the city solicitor for the city of Marlborough. I had countless cousins that were firefighters, teachers, et cetera. So I've grown up in an atmosphere of public service, and that's what I want to do. I'm a problem solver. I fix people's problems. I love fixing people's problems. I think I would have a huge impact as a Ward 6 counselor for Ward 6 and its residents, the city of Marlborough residents as a whole.
Thank you. Okay, now it's time for your closing remarks. And since we started with Trey, we're going to start with Maureen. You have 2 minutes.
Thank you. I'll keep it short and sweet. Thank you again for giving me the opportunity to appear here tonight and answer your questions to the Chamber of Commerce, the panelists, and the moderator. Excuse me, I'm starting to lose my voice. If I am so fortunate to be elected your Ward 6 counselor, I will listen and strongly advocate on your behalf. I will be your voice to ensure that the future of Marlborough is, prosperous and meets the needs of Ward 6 and the city of Marlborough residents. I believe that I have the skills to achieve it. And if I am so fortunate to garner your vote on, election day, I would greatly appreciate it. Thank you so much.
Thank you. And Trey.
Thank you to everybody who's here tonight in the audience, people watching on WMCT-TV. Thank you to WMCT-TV and all the folks here at the Chamber and everybody who's made this happen today. I want to thank everybody who's opened up to me throughout this campaign. All the neighbors, all the people I've gotten an opportunity to meet with, all the incumbent city councilors who've shared advice, who've told me kind of, what this job takes. And I think I really have a good grasp of that. And I'm ready to get to work on day one. That's what we need the most right now. Somebody who's going to be ready to go, not on January 1st, but November 8th, the day after Election Day. Let's get to work. So that's going to be really what I want to do for our community. Somebody close to me said that running a campaign and running for office is an MRI of the soul. And I can tell you it certainly is. You get to know a lot about yourself and you get to know a lot about your neighbors, and I really cherish that opportunity. It's really been so worthwhile, and it's been so incredible. And I would love to earn your support on November 7th and during the early voting period that the City Council just approved. Probably back in May, really early during the campaign, I was asked by somebody, what's worth more to me than winning? And it's a great question. I think every candidate should ask themselves that question. And for me, it's about building what kind of a city we want. That's what's worth more to me than winning. This campaign has given people a voice. It's given people an opportunity to share concerns that they didn't know that they could share before. And so I'm really grateful for that opportunity, and I hope to earn your support on November 7th. So thank you very much.
If I may, I failed to thank WMCT, and that was a huge failure on my part, because you guys are great. You've been great with me, and I'm sure you've been great with everyone else through this whole campaign. Thank you very much.
Okay, thank you, Maureen and Trey.
Thank you.
And we're going to take a short break, and we'll resume with Ward 7
Can we take these and
Counselors.
switch for all of them?
Emily.
Welcome. We're here for the Ward 7 candidate debate. I'd like to introduce Donald R. Landis Sr., Ward 7 Councilor, and Harmony Larson. Before we begin, I'd like to just go over the format briefly. The candidates will have 2 minutes to introduce themselves. The first round, each will be asked questions by the panelist. You have 1 minute for your response, 30 seconds for a rebuttal. The second round, each candidate will you will just choose each other and ask a question. Again, 1 minute for response, 30 seconds for rebuttal. If there's time after this segment, we will go back to the panelists to ask additional questions. At the conclusion of this debate, both of you will have 2 minutes for your closing statements, and we'll go in reverse order. I ask each of you to please be concise with your answers and respectful of your time and each other. Emily will have time cards, and she will be timing you. So let's begin with Don, opening.
Thank you very much. First of all, I am thrilled to be running for my 9th term for the Marlborough City Council. I want to thank Channel 8, or WMCT, and of course one of my favorite organizations in town, the Marlborough Regional Chamber of Commerce. Let me do a little bragging about the city and about myself. I'll start with myself because that'll only take 20 seconds. The rest I can talk about the city. I was employed by the Marlborough Public Schools for 30 years, and I was very fortunate. I had 5 jobs. I was head of the business department, I was vice principal, acting principal, director of data processing, and for the last 13 years, I was the assistant superintendent of schools. Let's quickly get into the city. I've been on the city council for 16 years. I've been on several committees, so if you ask me that question about what committee I want to serve on, I've been very fortunate. The presidents of the different city councils, I think I've been on every committee, but I have been on finance, urban, public services, legislative, rules and personnel. They're all good. They're all good committees. But as far as bragging about the city, you know, we have everything, really. I'm not saying we don't have a few faults, but we have everything. We have a lot of good industry. It's very attractive. We have a moderate tax rate. We have a AAA bond rating on our bonds. And I think the biggest thing, and I mentioned this at a meeting one time, Marlborough is a very accepting city. What I mean by that, when people move in or when businesses move into Marlborough, people accept them. It's not like some of our surrounding towns. So we have a lot of great activities for both the young and the old, and I have to give Marlborough a high rating of being a great place to live.
Thank you. Harmony?
I'm here tonight to ask you, my neighbors in Ward 7, to vote for a new city councilor on Tuesday, November 7th. We're a diverse ward, largely residential, with lots of young families, many lifelong residents, plenty of newcomers, and a bunch of us who fall somewhere in between. I'm excited to represent all of us, and willing, able, and ready to take on this challenge. I'm a mom of 3 Marlborough Public School students, and I know at least one of my boys is watching tonight, so hey, Eric. I've lived in the city for 14 years, which is longer than I've lived in any other place. My family has lived in Ward 7 for over 6 years. I'm a member of the Marlborough Cultural Council, and my professional background includes leadership roles in marketing, internal communications, and employee engagement, including many years in the architecture and development industry. If elected, I will push for more robust and user-friendly communication tools and more opportunities for residents to engage directly in the conversations that are shaping the future of Marlborough. Before I pulled papers back in May, I looked for a job description for a Marlborough City Councilor, but all I found were a few lines about the core function of the council. Here's what I'd include in a city councilor's job description. Be accessible and responsive to residents. Be humble and open-minded, listening to others and thinking critically about every issue so we make balanced judgments. Be helpful, connecting residents with the information and resources they need and treating them with respect and empathy, always. Be transparent and welcome public participation in government And finally, be courageous. Counselors have influence in addition to ability to vote. We need to be proactive and willing to step outside the box. I'm here today because, like many of you, I don't feel that our current counselor has been many of these things in recent years. I raised my hand because I believe that Marlborough has all the right ingredients, sorry, distracted by the time, to shine, and we need fresh eyes and new ideas to really realize that.
Thank you. All set?
What's next?
Okay. Bob?
All
we'll
right.
start with the questions.
Dawn, as the sitting senator,
Wow.
sitting
Got a
councilor,
promotion.
what do you feel is the most important issue in your ward, and how do you plan to address it?
Well, you know, it's funny. By the way, you don't know me. Most of your neighbors don't know me, but the rest of the ward knows me well. Ward 7 is unique. It's two parts. And, you know, the fortunate part, I lived in both. I lived in Precinct 1, I lived in Precinct 2, all right? I would say I probably know, for the most part, except for Barnard Road, I know 2 generations of people in Ward 7. It's amazing, being in the school department, being involved with the chamber, being out there, you know. Very, very few things I don't know. But getting back to Ward 7, we don't have the big industry, you know, so we don't have those problems. Do we have speeding on Miles Standish and Barnard Road? Yeah. Do we have streets that need to be repaired, even right in front of my driveway? Yeah, but we're working on those. So those are the big things. You know, we worked hard on improving, which is in my ward now, Memorial Beach,
Okay.
Packman Drive, that area.
Thank you, Don.
So, thank you.
Okay.
So, I would say that Ward 7 is a very diverse ward. And as such, the issues that people care about the most vary. But
Is this a rebuttal? This is a question.
Oh, I'm so sorry. I thought you were gonna ask me the same question.
No, not yet. You'll get the
well,
ones.
I will just ask, why don't you know your neighbors in my neighborhood? Why haven't we heard from you?
They don't walk by
I
my
have a
house.
dog.
They don't walk by my house. Well,
Oh,
you do.
okay.
You've been
I
walking
was
by my
actually
house.
going to ask the same question, so it's appropriate that you started talking, but then again, you got to
Okay.
ask the question. So, but the question is,
How many?
what do you feel is the most important issue in Ward 7, and how do you plan to address it?
So, I think Ward 7 residents care about the same things that the rest of the city cares about, and on the issue I've heard the most about is development. The focus that the way that I see this is development is impacting so many other things. It's not just about traffic or the actual construction process, it's the impact on the schools. And I and many other parents are living and breathing that every day, the overcrowding in the school system, the challenge for our teachers, in the culture of learning in the classroom is on the decline. And despite the funding being strong for the school system, we really can't accept we can't continue to grow. We're bursting at the seams. So that really has to be addressed in parallel with these conversations about zoning and not as an afterthought.
Thank you. Okay. So now you both can answer the question, but, all right.
Well, since zoning was mentioned, what are your thoughts and plans for zoning in the city?
How many?
I understand that zoning right now is a work in progress. I don't know enough about zoning to know if that's par for the course or if we're just in that mode, if we're at that stage in our evolution as a city. I'm curious to learn a lot more. I know that there are proposed changes on the table right now. I think getting that right is critical, and we can only get that right if we invite public participation into the conversation, if we make it accessible for the public to not just show up to a meeting, but to have easy ways to access this information. There are wonderful tools out there. Co-Urbanize is one, where municipalities can post all of their development projects, and citizens can very easily go back and see a timeline, see all of the documentation of what's going on, and provide feedback. in a way that's accessible to people that are probably, perhaps working or with their families at 7, 8 o'clock at night.
Thank you. Don?
Thank you. Thank God we have good zoning laws. But zoning, it's an ongoing thing. I'm not saying we change it every other year. But as times change, certainly we did some rezoning back, I think 2014. We're taking a look at that now because things have changed. Just with the pandemic, with the industry that we've got in town, the industry we want in town. Keeping in mind, the industry is important, because when we talk about tax rate, you have to have, good industry coming in, which we had, and the other thing will probably come up later, if you bring in industry, you gotta have housing too, and you need a good mixture of housing.
All right, thank you. Julie?
Okay. What would be your plan to help veteran-owned businesses start and grow in Marlborough?
Don?
Okay, not being a veteran myself, it's probably the only void in my life. It just so happens that, I didn't get into the Army. My family has, my brother, my son's a West Point grad. But I like to help veterans for the simple reason they've given up a year, 2 years, 4 years. They've given up a lot. So, we can give them a tax break on their house. Fortunately, the state gives them a break on, I believe, your state colleges are tuition-free. But as far as starting the business, and maybe it's something we could work through MEDC too, give them that seed money, to start a business. And we got a wonderful veteran agent, so that's another example. We have a lot of good things going in Marlborough, and I think we should help the veterans. They've done a lot for us.
Thank you. Harmony?
I will say I don't know if MEDC has special, tools in their toolkit for disadvantaged businesses, including veterans, but also, women-owned businesses, minority-owned businesses, disabled persons-owned businesses. I think if they don't, that's something the city should partner with MEDC on, as creating tools and some means to give businesses a step up. I don't know what the city does either. I would hope that the city has a policy of procuring certain percentage of services or goods from disadvantaged businesses. I don't know the answer to that just yet.
All right, thank you. All right, Bob?
Okay, what are your thoughts on the tax rate for residents and businesses?
Yeah.
Actually, Harmony.
Harmony.
Okay. As a homeowner, I love our lower tax rate, lower than the surrounding communities. It was a sort of lucky accident that we ended up in Marlborough. We were coming west from Watertown, which Don's homeland, which a lot of people make that westward journey, as far west as you have to go to buy a home. But I will say that communities around us accept a higher tax rate in exchange for what they view as a stronger school system. And I don't think we have to go there to achieve that. But I would feel a lot better about the low tax rate if our school system ratings were more on par with their neighbors. As far as commercial goes, I'm not a business owner. I think that our balance between commercial and residential is something Marlborough stands out in having a strong commercial tax base.
Thank you. Don?
Well, I've always believed in a split tax rate. And I think partially because I've always felt that it helps the residents, it helps the homeowner to have a lower tax rate. But it doesn't hurt the businesses in such a way because we have so much more to offer a business. We have good infrastructure, we have good water supply, we have good sewerage, we have decent highways. We have location. So it doesn't prevent businesses from coming to Marlborough because we have so much more to offer them. And they don't seem to mind paying, a little bit higher than residential.
Okay, thank you. All right.
As discussed at the mayoral debates, the West Side Fire Station. Would you support it, and how do you feel the city needs to get it done?
Don?
We definitely need a West Side Fire Station. I was disappointed when we didn't move forward on that. I just went down the fire station the other day, and we have a $1.7 million tower truck. In fact, they call it the truck, sitting down there. And what I think it will do to eventually do this fire station is, and I've always been after the chief on this, that we have a aerial truck or a ladder truck in the west, and we have one in the east. That fire station on Route 20 East was originally built to house an a tower truck to take care of all the apartment complexes down there in Ward 1 and part of Ward 6. As far as financing it, we can do it. We have mitigation money that we have, and I think it's only a matter of time, maybe starting in January, we will start working on that. I think the only thing I recall,
Thank
the
you, Don.
ideal place for the
Harmony?
My thoughts on this is that if we have strong data that shows that there's a public safety issue in parts of the city, then we should absolutely lean into eliminate those concerns to make sure that residents in every corner of the city are safe and are protected in case of an emergency. The fire station is a long-term project that predates obviously my running for office, and I would certainly love to learn more about this project and lean in any way that I can as a city councilor to make it happen.
Okay, thank you. We're going to move on to the second segment where both of you get to ask each other a question. So, Don, would you like to begin?
Very good. I wasn't going to bring up schools because this is a city council election, but you mentioned in one of your communications that you have 3 children in the school. I have 3 parts to this question. Are you pleased with the Marlborough Public Schools? I think you mentioned 2 things that you weren't happy about, but, so what's your response to that?
I am incredibly pleased with the administrators that I've met, with the educators that I've met, with the diversity of students that my kids have met and that I have met as a result, families that I have met. I'm pleased with the social emotional learning aspect of our schools. We're educating really compassionate, open-minded people, but we have challenges. We have a very high level of need across our school system that makes it incredibly challenging for our educators to provide a consistent education for all of our students.
Okay, that's good. That's good. I got one. The other part of that, did you ever think of running for a school committee?
Very briefly. I plan to be here for a long time, and I feel like I can give more at this level, and continue to feel passionate about the work of a city council over the years,
But I can see from your response tonight, you know a lot more about education in schools than you do about running a city. Amen.
Okay, all right.
Is that a question?
No, I'm just making a comment.
Okay. There isn't a, there isn't a training, there isn't a book to learn how to be part of managing a city.
You get out there and know the city well.
Okay,
Yep.
all right, thank you. Okay, Harmony?
Yes, okay. So you've been Ward 7 City Councilor for the past 16 years.
That's correct.
What have you been unable to achieve in all those years that you believe you can accomplish in the next 2 years?
Well, you know, it's ironic, you know, as I mentioned before, 7 is unique. I think I've worked with problems that most people have in 7. Road conditions, the speeding, etc. You know, we got Memorial Beach out of the way, all right? So right now, I will continue to work very hard for 7, and I do respond to people in Ward 7. Occasionally, we hear some people from your neighbors, especially when they thought the water tank was leaking, and that was the water in their cellar, all right? And it wasn't that, it was just what they did to their yard. So I always respond, usually not an email or not a call, I visit. Yesterday, I had a wonderful meeting down on McIntyre Circle with the Commissioner of Public Works and myself, solving a road problem and a potential snow problem. So I get out there in the community, and so evidently, some of your neighbors don't know me, you don't know me, I'm out there nonstop.
All right, thank you, Don. Do you have a rebuttal?
Yes, I don't doubt that you get out there and interact with the people that you do. But it's not just my neighbors that have commented on not receiving a response. And I do think a city councilor needs to be able to respond in different ways, by email, by a phone call, than just arriving in person.
Okay.
Well, her emails are fine, but I've learned from my years in education, being vice principal and principal.
Thank you,
All right.
Don.
Is it me?
No.
Oh, I'm sorry.
She rebutted, and so we're going to move on now.
Okay.
Next question, please. All right. How do you plan to maintain a business-friendly climate in the city?
Well, I think that's something I get high grades for. There isn't a business that I don't get involved with that I haven't visited. In fact, the project down at Marilyn Green's there, the clerk of the works, we're on first-name basis right now. I get down there about every other day. But I get so involved with a business that when we were building the Apex Center, I knew the state troopers that were directing traffic on Route 20 because of the dynamiting that was going on down there. But what I'm saying there, Bob, that I get involved with the businesses from day one. I've been on urban for several years now, so I get a good handle on it. I ask questions, especially in committee, not so much at public hearings. And so I start right there, and I carry right through, and then, of course, I go to every ribbon cutting that there is in Marlborough.
Thank you. Harmony?
I've been thinking a lot about downtown revitalization. It's, you know, it's a bit of a buzzword, but it's an issue not just for businesses on Main Street. I think it's an issue for small businesses in particular that want to be in Marlborough, because a revitalized downtown will make Marlborough a more appealing place for all businesses and will generate more traffic for all businesses. I understand the gravity or the scale of the challenge in downtown. We have landlords who don't have enough skin in the game to care what types of businesses are renting from them. They're passing their taxes off to their tenants, and they're just not involved. They're not as involved as they need to be. I don't know what the city can do to gain more leverage with landlords, but we have to figure that out.
Thank you. Julie?
What committees do you feel you can make the strongest contribution to in the city, and why?
Harmony?
I worked for many years in the architecture and development industry, not as an architect, not as a developer. I would love to be involved in the Urban Affairs and Housing Committee. I also have experience in human resources. I would love to be involved on the Personnel Committee. And I have a real passion for the outdoors and for open space. So those are the three that I would say. I also would just note that we have 12, I believe, and there's Boston, for example, obviously much larger, has 18, including a culture, arts, and special events or something committee. And I don't know what it takes to create a new committee. I would be open to exploring where we have gaps and where, as we evolve, we might need a different mix of committees.
Thank you. Don?
Well, as I mentioned earlier, I've been very fortunate. I've been rotated right through almost every committee, partially because in a discussion with the newly elected or the president of the city council, I think last time I mentioned that to our president, why don't you take me off these committees and give somebody else a shot at it? I think it's so important that, city councilors get on and come up and change. I love urban affairs, all right? One of my favorites, and I work very hard at, is public services. I have a great rapport with the Department of Public Works, especially the city engineer, and I also have a good relationship with the utility companies that a lot of my work is done approving them. So basically, I think I was on finance for a while, but someone, I think that's the outgoing mayor, told everybody in the world I was too liberal, so I didn't stay on finance too long.
All right. Thank you.
Can I just say, I appreciate what you said about giving other people a chance to step up and be part of the committees, and that's why I'm here.
Thank you. Okay, in the interest of time, we now have closing comments.
Already?
Yes.
Oh, my
You've been
goodness
talking a
gracious.
lot.
I got another hour to talk about Marlborough.
Let's not go there.
Okay. Harmony, would you like to start?
Sure. So I just want to thank everyone who is involved in making this debate happen. Thank you for being here. On Tuesday, November 7th, Ward 7 voters finally have a choice, and I believe I'm the stronger choice. I have the energy, the ideas, and as a mom of 3 kids growing up here, I am very invested. I'm ready to bring new energy and a new perspective to the Ward 7 seat. I'm glad the election is less than 2 weeks away because I'm really excited to roll up my sleeves and dig into the real work of being a city councilor. The job description I will hold myself to will include being accessible and responsive, humble and open-minded, helpful, transparent, and courageous. I decided to run because I wanted a better option on election day, and I've heard loud and clear that many of you share that sentiment. While I thank the current Ward 7 councilor for the many years of service, I believe good leadership is knowing when to step up and also when to step back and pass the torch. While I have not had a chance yet to speak directly to nearly enough Ward 7 residents, I have laid the groundwork to make myself as accessible as possible, should you choose to elect me. I've already started building a mailing list for a new Ward 7 newsletter, and will begin hosting office hours at the library this Friday at 10 a.m. As your city councilor, this is something I'll continue to do on a regular basis. You can find more information about all of this on my website, harmonylarson.org. I want you to feel like you know what's going on at City Hall and elsewhere around the city, and you have a champion and a resource in your corner. We will not agree on every topic, and I cannot move every mountain, but I want you to feel respected and heard when it comes to the issues that matter to you and your family. Thank you for your time. I humbly ask for your vote on November 7th.
Thank you. And just so that you know, there's a little fly up here that's going around.
Fly.
So she's not swatting at anything. It's just that it's been in my vision and I've been kind of stepping back. But Dawn, your closing comments.
Very good. Before I wrap up my presentation, I'd like to publicly thank Mayor Arthur Vision for all that he has done for Ward 7, especially Memorial Beach, and the entire city, both as a city councilor and as a mayor for 12 years. Now, I love this city, this great city, and want to continue to serve this great city and add to my 30 years in the school and 16 years in the city council. What I say, and I've heard this before, that, Don, where do you get the energy? How do you keep going from meeting to meeting and being involved? And we see you here and we see you there. So I don't think there's anybody that could spend more time for Ward 7 and for the city than Don Landis. I want to continue 2 more years at least. There is more to be done, and I want to be part of it. Thank you for the support, and please vote on November 7th. Thank you.
Thank you. I'd like to thank both Harmony and Dawn. And we are going to take a short break, and then we will be back with the Counselor at Large debate. Thank you.
Nicely done.
Welcome to the Counselor at Large debate. I'd like to begin with introducing our candidates. We have Michael Henry Ossing, Sean A. Navin, Kathleen Diane Roby, who's the Vice President at Large Counselor, Mark A. Orem, at Large Counselor, and Scott M. King. And I'm sorry, Michael, it's Michael Ossing, President at Large Counselor. But before we begin, I'd like to just go over the format. Candidates, you will each have 2 minutes to introduce yourselves. The first round, you will each be asked questions by our panelists. You will have 1 minute for your response and 30 seconds for a rebuttal. The second round, each candidate will choose another candidate to ask a respectful question. Again, 1 minute for your response and 30 seconds for your rebuttal. If there is time after this segment, we will go back to the panel for additional questions. At the conclusion of the debate, all candidates will have 2 minutes for their closing statements. And I'll probably do it in kind of reverse order than I start you up in the beginning. I ask each of you to be concise with your answers and respectful of your time and each other. Emily will be timing, and she will have the cards there, and if you just glance over, she will tell you how much time you have left in your response. So let's begin with, we'll start to my right, Scott.
Okay. I'm honored to sit before you as a counselor for City Council at Large in the great city of Marlborough. Marlborough is not just my home, it's part of me and my family. I was born in Marlborough Hospital and have been a proud resident here my entire life. I walked the halls of Marlborough High School, Marlborough Public Schools, and I also earned my associate's degree in criminal justice. My roots in the city run deep. Family has always been central to my life. I've been married to my incredible wife, Kristen, who's in the audience, for 31 years. Together, we've raised 2 daughters who attended Marlborough Public Schools. Now, we're blessed to watch my granddaughter grow in these same schools. Our commitment to this city is not just political, it's personal. We're homeowners here. Our family and friends reside here. I'm also a proud Army veteran, having served in Iraq in 2004 and 2005. I'm a retired police officer. Following my military service, I decided to pursue a career in real estate. I'm currently working as a real estate agent. During my time on the police department, I experienced a full spectrum of police work, from becoming a rape aggression defense instructor, to riding the police motorcycle, to a squad leader to the Junior Police Academy. I was also a school resource officer for Aspet Valley Regional High School. My commitment to this community was acknowledged when I was inducted in the Hall of Achievement at Aspet Valley. My journey to become Counselor at Large stems from my deep desire to continue serving the city I love. I've seen Marlborough evolve, and I want to ensure the growth benefits our community and the residents. My core values, loyalty, duty, respect, selfless service, honor, integrity, and personal courage, are the foundation upon which I approach this new endeavor.
Thank you. Katie?
Thank you. I want to thank WMCT-TV and the Marlborough Chamber of Commerce for offering this opportunity to discuss the issues with the Council at Large candidates. I am not from Marlborough or from Massachusetts. I was born and raised in Missouri, known as the Show Me State. I graduated from high school, but I did not go on to college. During high school and after graduation, I was fortunate to be hired at many jobs where I learned on the job. After moving to Iowa, I met my future husband, Eric Bauer. We were married in 1982, and in 1983, we moved to Massachusetts. We spent several years living in what's known as the nurses' home at Eastleigh Farm in Framingham. When our family, that was now 3, was going to get bigger, we looked for a house. We moved to Marlborough in 1989. So although I'm not from Marlborough, Marlborough has become my home, and I want to thank all the people who have welcomed me and my family to be a part of this thriving city. Our 2 children are both graduates of Marlborough Public Schools, K-12, and have gone on to college and are out in the working world. Our daughter lives in California, and our son still lives in Marlborough. I thank the voters who have allowed me to serve as one of your at-large city councilors for the past 12 years and ask for your vote so that I may continue to serve as one of your at-large councilors for the next 2 years as we continue to make Marlborough a great place to live, work, and play.
Thank you. Michael.
I'm currently serving my 12th term as your councilor at large. I'm running because I believe my experience, education, and passion for a government that solves problems will ensure that Marlborough plans for and prospers in the future. I'm 64 years old and have lived in Marlborough for 62 years. I've been married to my lovely wife, Linda, for 33 years. We have 2 wonderful children, Kaylin, age 32, and Cam, age 31. I graduated from the Marlborough Public School System and received my Bachelor of Science degree in Nuclear Engineering from the University of Lowell. I am retired after being employed at the Seabrook Station Nuclear Power Plant for over 35 years. At Seabrook Station, I've held various engineering, project management, and leadership positions, including licensing manager and engineering programs manager. 2 significant differences between me and the other candidates: leadership and financial acumen. My council colleagues acknowledged my leadership skills by unanimously electing me City Council President for 4 consecutive years. I've guided the City Council through COVID, as well as leading the council to secure over $7 million for the West Side Fire Station. I have drafted the order that has saved Marlborough residents in the municipal aggregation program over $17 million since 2019. Last winter alone, Marlborough residents saved an average of over $147 a month on their electricity bills. My knowledge of city finances is unmatched by any of my colleagues and has guided Marlborough to multiple AAA bond ratings and the ability to fund the new Goodnow Brothers School and renovated library with minimal impact on the taxes. Recognizing the new mayor will not have the experience in finances, having a councilor at large with the experience will be vital for the city to continue to have the lowest tax rate around while providing outstanding services that make Marlborough the greatest city to live, work, and play. Thank you.
Thank you. And Sean?
Right, thank you. Good evening. Thank you to WMCT-TV and the Marlborough Regional Chamber of Commerce for hosting tonight's debate. And thank you to the other candidates up here, not only for being part of this discussion, but for stepping forward to run for office. My name is Sean Navin, and I currently serve as the Ward 6 City Councilor, a position I've had the honor of holding for the past 4 years. And this year, I am excited to be a candidate for Councilor at Large. My wife Jessica and I live on Bolton Street with our son Giovanni, who just turned 2. We're both proud graduates of the Marlborough Public School System, and we're thrilled to be raising our family in the city where we grew up. We were fortunate to be able to purchase our first home here and have had the opportunity to become even more involved in our community. I love serving on the City Council. Representing our neighbors at City Hall has been an incredible honor. It's a responsibility that I don't take lightly. With that said, you may wonder, why am I leaving my ward seat to run for a citywide position? The answer is fairly straightforward. As our family has grown, we're finding, like many people, that we are quickly outgrowing our house and are looking for a new home with a little bit more space. And anyone who has recently gone through the house hunt process will tell you it can be an extremely challenging experience. It's made even more difficult when limited to searching in just one ward. The open at-large seat has created an opportunity for my family to grow into a new home and hopefully for me to continue to do this job that I love for an even greater number of people. 4 years ago, I ran for City Council for 2 reasons: to serve my community and because I've always believed that local government is a place where you can make the greatest impact on people's everyday lives. I spent almost 20 years of my professional career serving in the public sector across all levels of government. Through this experience, I have learned the incredible value of communication, collaboration, and dependability. I go to work every day trying to make government more responsive and responsible. I'm proud of my efforts and the results they've produced. Our city is at a turning point. We're about to go through the most significant shift in leadership in over a decade. In January, we'll have a new mayor and at least 3 new city councilors. Many critical decisions about how the city will serve its residents will come before the council in the coming term, and I'm eager to use my experience to provide continuity through this change. I'm happy to be here tonight to join this discussion about how we can move Marlborough forward. Thank you.
Okay, and Mark.
Thank you. My name is Mark Oram, and I am a candidate for an at-large councilor position. I'd like to thank the Chamber of Commerce and WMCT-TV for allowing us to participate and be broadcast. And as important, I'm very happy that it will be broadcast to the listening audience who need to see what they get. You know, we're up here trying to sell ourselves. I'd also like to thank the voters of our great city for allowing me to serve as one of your city councilors in Ward 6 for 12 years, and again, as a councilor at large for the past, I think it's the past 12 years. The experience I've gained, both in my opportunity to be a local ward councilor and an at-large councilor, and my background in environmental and public health, has allowed me to offer our constituents the needed representation for the many needs in our city. My family and I have resided in Marlborough for most of our lives, and we appreciate the many assets our city offers to our residents and businesses. I was educated in the Marlborough school system and continued my education at Framingham State College with a bachelor's in food science, and went on to get my master's at Boston University in public health. Our family has resided in the Fort Meadow neighborhood, and our children have grown up to be adults. And they went to Marlborough High School and all the Marlborough school system, and I'm glad to see they've excelled with the school system that we have here. We always need to improve our school system, though, and I'm always willing to support our educational system. I've been a long-term member of the Marlborough Rotary Club, and as Rotarians, we provide resources to the needy, improve our local resources, and provide scholarships for our students. I have served on the City Council subcommittee and all the city subcommittees, City Council subcommittees, and as a member of the Finance Committee, I continue to be committed to the management of the needed services for our community. Thank you.
Thank you. Okay. Now over to the panel.
Who do we want to start? Want to start with Scott?
It's up to you.
Work
Yeah,
our
we're-
way down. That's
You
what we're
got
thinking. Okay, then Scott, what are your most important issues facing the city, and how would you address them?
Well, most importantly to me is the condition of the roads right now, the buildings that are being built, a lot of the things that I cannot change because they've already been voted on. So moving forward, I think we need to look into the school system, the population of it, and what impacts the building that we're doing are going to have on that. I think a lot of the mental health services and the addiction services need to be looked into. I'm also I was a retired police officer, so I know that the police department's understaffed. I spoke to the fire department, they're understaffed. So there's a lot of issues that need to be addressed due to the growth of the city. And we can get into the fire station later if I get asked that question.
Okay, thank you.
All right, Katie, as the vice president of the city council and at-large councilor, what are the most important issues facing the city, and how do you plan to address them?
For me, the issues currently in the city are our roads and the sometimes lack of money to fix all of them that seem to need to be fixed. Unfortunately, even with the new school that was built, we are overcrowded, and we'll be looking at another school project in the near future. And I think our aging population is also a concern. As a city councilor, we can work on some of those issues to make sure that there's funding for roads. The school project will be before us, I would assume, and we always support the senior center with their needs.
Thank you.
Mike, as the president of the city council and at-large councilor, what are your most important issues that you feel are facing the city, and what do you plan to do about them?
Thanks, Bob. To me, the most important issue is always city finances, because without the city finances, you can't fix roads, you can't build new schools, you can't put more people on the police force or the fire department. So having a good control and a good handle on the city's finances is key. So what does that mean? That means you have to have development to help offset the increase in budgets. And we want to be able to keep the taxes reasonable so that the folks that are here can stay here. So my primary focus as a city council president has been making sure the finances are in place so the city can continue to thrive and survive.
Thank you.
Sean, as sitting councilor in Ward 6, what do you see as the most important issue for the city, and how would you address it?
Yeah, thank you very much. So You know, as the Ward 6 City Councilor, we have seen quite a bit of the concern around growth in our community. And as the President just highlighted, the best way for us to, come up with a predictable, reasonable tax base is to have economic growth. But I think the most pressing concern that we're currently facing is how do we address that growth and how do we make it reasonable? And how do our economic development policies evolve in a reasonable way? Because with the growth comes the impact on our city services, on our roads, on our school system. And how do we make sure that we are moving forward in a way that supports our taxpayers, but also protects them from the services that we're already trying to provide?
Very good.
Mark, as an at-large counselor, what are your most important issues facing the city and how would you address them?
Thank you for that question. I was ready for it.
It's kind of obvious.
Well, obviously, managed appropriate growth is what we should be looking at. Not just growth, but managed and appropriate. We don't want overgrowth. We need growth for our financing, but again, appropriate. So that's one of my key issues. As a city council, we work all together on finance, especially finance committee members. So it's not a one-person show out there at the city council. We all work together. Financing obviously is most important. So it's a group effort, and we have to continue to work that way. But the other thing that I just spoke about at our city council meeting on Monday, affordable housing. And this isn't just the word affordable for maybe what many people consider low income. It's also for our own children who can't even live in our city anymore, people looking for a new house. It's not all that affordable. So I think affordable housing has to be approached, and we have to continue to request it from the developers. Thank you.
Okay, so this is a question to each one.
General questions, one each.
Ask a question,
Well,
and I'll point who's going to start the answer.
Well, we discussed this during the mayoral debate. A couple of Marlborough hotels are offering shelter to a large influx of immigrant families from countries in turmoil. And the question is, how would you address the situation?
Mark?
Yes, and well, first and foremost, when I heard word of that, I think it was back in July, our congresswoman from the U.S. Congress was in town. And I brought it to her attention immediately that we're going to need to see money trickling down from the federal government to the state government to the local government. And when I said that to her, obviously now our governor here in Massachusetts has already brought that concern up. So having the resources, we can't be inhumane to these people, but we as a city have to make sure we're getting a fair amount of the resources that are needed to support these people within our schools. What it might be too is, we live in a great community, there's already a coat drive because they're not familiar with the winter. But we can't be inhumane, but at the same time, we're going to need resources from levels at the state and federal governments. Thank you.
Thank you. Sean?
Thank you. As the parent of a young child, and my wife and I kind of wake up every day trying to figure out how we can, manage being new parents and trying to keep everybody safe. I can't imagine what the situation has to be like where these folks have come from in order to pack up and leave their families, their cultures, and journey here. So I am very sympathetic to the plight that they have gone through, and do feel that we should do everything we can. That aside from what we're looking at, you can still be, welcoming and want to help people, but at the same time have concerns about what our resources are and how we're going to pay for it. We have already welcomed people to our community, which is incredibly important. What we need to do now is continue to work with our state delegation and with the federal government to find out ways that we can help manage this crisis.
Thank you. Michael?
So this is a failure of our state. We're the only state in the union to have a law that allows housing for folks. The only one, right? And so now it's free housing when you come in, and now the governor's capping that at 45,000 people. So the law of unintended consequences. The spirit of the law is good, but it was never intended to house all the immigrants coming across into the country. And so it's an extreme failure. And so what does that mean? That means someone has to pay for it. So who is that? So that's the person that's on fixed income, just like the folks that are working, then gets saddled with these bills. So it's got to go back to the state to fix that law. They can fix it instantaneously if they get the courage to just vote and say, hey, we've got to put a stop to this. It's not right.
Thank you. Katie?
Thank you. It is unfortunate that the immigrants that have come into the country that are housed in Marlborough are being talked about as a different kind of group that needs help than the other residents that can take advantage of the right to housing. I think in the city of Marlborough, we're fortunate that we have many civic organizations that have stepped up with funding and with donations and offers to help with the people that are here. Our school system has been wonderful. We still need translators. That is a big issue. I think that the request of the governor for money to reimburse cities and towns is being heard and will be taken care of. And I think that a cap is, I'm not sure how it's going to work, but we will see in the future whether our numbers increase.
Thank you. And Scott?
So, in the service, I was in a lot of, in another country, Iraq. I was in a small village several times, and I was with a lot of the population there who were less fortunate and whatnot. And as we were going to the village to visit with them, we would help them out, give them things and whatnot. And as the time went on, they started helping themselves and working and finding jobs. Unfortunately, while they're here now, the immigrants that are here now, we need to empower them and get them on the right track so that they can start taking care of themselves, because unfortunately we have to embrace it because it did come from higher above. And hopefully they help with the funding and we can get through this and empower them so they're here so they can start being a better part of the community.
Thank you. Okay, next question.
The state is mandating each MBTA community, of which Marlborough is designated as one, produce additional housing. Residents are uncomfortable with the level of development in their backyard. How do you balance those two challenges?
Michael?
Sure. So the housing bill is requiring, I think, 1,750 units to be placed in Marlborough per the new rules, all right? Folks don't like growth, I understand that. The city needs growth in order to survive. The last 4 years, this council's approved 3 projects and not one has come online. They'll be coming online in 26, 27, 28 because it takes time. So you have to have a feeder system in to be approving projects so that the timeline that comes in, they'll be able to support the new growth. The projects that are coming in now, Phase 1 of the Green District, Avalon Bay, those were all projects approved by councils in 2017, 18, and 19. The projects that we've approved in the last 4 years, as I'm being the council president, none of those have come to fruition yet. So it's having that balanced growth. So we are going to be saddled with 1,750 houses that we're being mandated, and we're currently working on a plan to figure out where those will go.
Thank you. Katie?
Marlborough is considered an adjacent community under the rules of the MBTA housing, which means that we are a little less strict than some of the cities that have MBTA stations or bus stations who are supposed to be putting that new housing around those. Marlborough is fortunate that we can figure out where we want that housing to go. The big issue is that the housing has to be by right. We can put in that they are affordable up to a certain percent. It's the issue of figuring out where they go. We did get a grant that the city solicitor used to give us a recommendation. If I'm reelected and can serve again, I will be spearheading another group that can take a broad look at the city and figure out if there are other areas where we can do this.
Scott?
So the housing projects that are going up now, as I'm watching them, a lot of the contractors coming in are using the senior housing, the over 55 developments. They're going after them because they feel that is a guarantee to fill them with, and using the saying that, oh, they'll retire and move out of their house and make more housing. Well, unfortunately, all the contractors are the ones that are benefiting from it because the rents are so high that the regular two-family homes in Marlborough can't compete with the new housing that's going up because the rent's twice the amount. So we need to figure out a way to get the housing prices, the rental apartments lowered, and unfortunately, it may mean building more housing so that there's less demand because the demand is raising the prices.
Thank you. Mark?
Thank you. With the MBTA and the state legislation, it needs to be reviewed. We're not even near the train station. You gotta go all the way to Southborough or Ashland. And I know we're a committee outside of the area, but we don't even have direct access to it outside of a bus that goes there once in a while. So I think that legislation needs to be reviewed. It was just talked earlier how some forms of state legislation need to be changed. And this one, I think, is a burden on communities that are outside of the MBTA direct access to a train station. I can see it in the towns that do have train stations. And again, you know, we have to look at what was just mentioned about affordable housing. We just heard on Monday night at City Council from some hillside representatives in questioning a developer how much it would cost to get into their units. $400,000 to $800,000. Again, try to sell your house for that. Usually, as the person said, you're trying to make some income. You're probably just going to break even if you do. Thank you.
Thank you. And Sean?
Thank you. I'd certainly share folks' frustration about the designation of being an MBTA-adjacent community when we do have to drive to a train. We are not building the type of housing I think that's envisioned in the law. However, Massachusetts is in a housing crisis, and I don't foresee the legislation being repealed. I feel, especially with the governor's housing bill that was filed last week, that they're going to look to continue to go further. So what we need to do is make sure that the housing that we do build and that we do greenlight is in the correct areas. And then we have to make sure that when they are built, they're doing so in a way that can help not only just, you know, provide the amount of housing we have, but help revitalize neighborhoods. It's why, you know, I think that the corner of Mechanic and Lincoln is going to be a great project because not only is it going to provide a substantial amount of housing, but it's also going to transform a corridor that we desperately needed. It's why the Green District works. We need to be very thoughtful about where we greenlight apartments so that the impacts on traffic and everything else is mitigated. And so our community isn't bearing the burden and not being justified by the economic benefit.
Thank you. Okay, we're going to move on to the second segment where each of you get to ask another candidate a question. And we're going to begin with Katie.
Do I get to pick who I ask?
You get to pick whoever you want.
We were being told who. All right. Councilor Oram, you voted no for the special permit for Post Road Realty's Phase 3 and 4 project on Cimarano Drive that would add another $1.2 million to the West Side Fire Station stabilization account the council set up to help with the cost of the future fire station. In your remarks, you said, we have other ways we can raise money as well, and we are going to need to raise more money than that. Obviously, I respect the facts we're trying to raise it, and I have other ideas. I think we can be raising money. What are those other ideas you have to raise funds for the West Side Fire Station?
Sure. Well, you said it, West Side. What's on the west side? All our hotels. What do we do with the hotel money? It's a state legislative act that needs to be changed. We take $750,000 a year, I look at the audience a lot, I'm sorry, I'll look in the camera too, for economic development. I don't know of many economic development corporations in the state, nor do I know any economic development within a city or town's government that spends $750,000. That money could possibly be used for the West Side Fire Station because it's supporting those hotels and the residents down there. That's my idea. I'm glad you asked the question. And hopefully we can work towards changing that legislation, which I feel my hands are locked. When the previous city council made this decision, they locked our hands to how we use our taxes in the hotel taxes. So I think it can be changed, and that would definitely move money right towards the fire station. You look at the amount of money we spend on economic development, it's got to be over 10 times 500, at least $5 million.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you. Scott,
Can you
who would
ask
you
the
like to
question?
ask?
This is for Mr. Ossing. The electricity rates, that contract is ending. I'm just, thank you for doing that. As a resident, I appreciate it. My question to you is the new contract, I saw it's a little bit higher, 14%, and is that a negotiable contract that you can follow up on and check out other companies, or is it just one?
No, so, great question, Scott. So Marlborough, per the municipal aggregation contract, a program, we go out for bids. So we actually solicit bids from various energy suppliers and get pricing for contracts for various lengths, for various renewable content. And so we got the best price we could. If you go on any of the websites for the suppliers right now, our 14.15 cents is lower than almost everyone else that's got a municipal aggregation program. And the benefit to the resident is the national grid rate starting in November is going to be 18 cents. So the homeowner is going to continue to save money over $24 a month during that winter rate that's in effect. So, you know, no one likes paying electricity, but we're meeting the intent what the city council said, which was be less than national grid, and we're doing that. So I think the residents will be pleased with that.
Thank you.
Thank you. Okay, Mark.
Okay, well, you know, I know the answers from most of my fellows that are already serving, so Scott, I hate to put you on the spot, but I'd like to know your side of this. Today, I just went to a community health assessment. It just came out from the Metro West Health Foundation, and one of the things is the built and natural environment. And it supports more trails and walking spaces and getting out in the woods. It's been proven that it's excellent for reducing stress. Maybe we all need to take a walk in the woods sometime. But would you support additional area, well, first of all, would you support responsible growth by not voting for areas that may be taking up some of our natural resources, such as our stormwater management areas, watersheds, and support further recreational areas?
So I'm a fan of the recreation areas as long as somebody actually uses them. I walk the rail trail almost daily with my dog, and it's funny that you ask about the trail, and there's a trail going right in between me and my neighbor's house. So I've accepted it. Not many people frequent the trail, and I've noticed that while I'm on it. And I've been there in the morning, at night, in the afternoon, so I would support it as long as the public, and that would be a question for the residents, and actually get feedback from the residents, as far, not just one group of people, but the whole city, and make an access for everybody has an opinion. Because there's a lot of trails that are made now that are not in use.
And if I may, and I had a little advantage, Scott and I had a chance to talk about this earlier, but I respect that, and I hope the city will work with your neighborhood to make sure there's parking for that trail, make sure it's publicized properly, and I believe you said a crosswalk. Unfortunately, it sounds like that wasn't vetted with your neighbors, but thank you for your answer.
Okay, thank you. Sean.
Thank you. President Alsing, this question is for you. As has been noted, I think in all of our talking points and in all the news coverage, we will see a new mayor for the first time in 12 years this coming January. With every administration, there are opportunities for change. As councilor at large, what changes would you like to see in a new administration?
I'd like to make sure the new administration sets up weekly or bi-weekly meetings with the city council president, whoever that may be, to make sure that the known items that are on the mayor's agenda are openly communicated to the city council. I think that open communication is key. We've seen it work extremely well at times while we're on the city council, and I think that's key for whoever the next mayor is, to make sure those open lines of communication between the city council and the mayor's office, so that we know what topic is being what's coming down, so there's no surprises, and how we respond and what the plans of the council are. So that's key.
Okay, thank you. And Michael.
Thank you. This one's for Mark. Mark,
I expected that.
There you go. You've been on the city council for 24 years.
That's correct.
What is the most significant piece of legislation you have initiated and obtained city council support of?
Well, if I can first correct what I said earlier, I've been on the city council for 12 years as a ward councilor and 10 years as an at-large, so 22 years. And I'm hoping it'll be 24. But getting back to what was the most important.
What was the most significant piece of legislation you've initiated and obtained city council support of?
You know, I work in public health, and back in, I believe it was 2014, I was reading a newspaper article where I was watching my daughter run for a race, and you got all day to wait for that moment. But back to the situation, I was reading about the fact that Narcan had saved someone from in Boston, or vice versa, from a police officer who was on call from Brookline, or Brockton, so I presented it to the city council, and there was a lot of bad vibes I got. No, you can't do that. You're going to make Marlborough look like a drug city. Well, you know what? I got the chief in there, the police chief, the ambulance service, and the fire chief, and they supported having our public officers carry Narcan. That was my most important legislation of any time.
Thank you. Okay. Now, for the second round, moving on to the next round, we're going to start with Michael.
Thank you. This one's for Scott. Scott, it's kind of a two-part question. Have you been following the city council meetings?
Yes.
Okay, no, that's good.
I wasn't sure if you were done.
No, it's all right. No, that was the yes/no part of the question.
That's how I came up with the electricity question.
So can you provide any examples of how you would have voted differently than some of the votes that the city council has taken? Something that you're either happy with or not happy with on the council?
I wasn't very happy with the procedure of the garage at the corner of Main and Mechanic Street when they were trying to open up the garage beside it. My biggest reason for it is I'm familiar with the business. He's always kept it really nice. It seemed like a really drawn-out process, and they put him through quite a bit to eventually come out with the same outcome that should have been handled sooner, in my opinion. There's a couple of other things also, but that's one of the main things that stick out to me. And also the other night about the Sassaville, the over 55 there, that they were putting to the council about building the over 55, and their comments about the residents retiring to move in there and opening up more housing, and didn't seem too accurate to me.
Thank you. Okay, Sean.
Scott, this one's for you. You're getting busy over there, so.
That's all right. New guy.
This is a bit of a lob. On your patch questionnaire, you noted some of the ways in which the city councilors were coming up short is communication and public safety. I was wondering if you would tell us a little bit more about that.
Coming up short in communication with public safety?
Well, the question said failed, but that was, putting words in someone's mouth, so I want to keep it positive.
Well, one thing is the radios, which has now been voted on it, and that was one of my issues, because when I did work patrol, when I was at Assabet, my radio didn't work in Assabet. I had several emergencies, was told the chief about it several times. They never addressed the radios. So I would have to go outside of the school or send somebody outside of the school to call the station on the radio, and my cell phone would not work, which is my personal cell phone, which I used when I was on patrol also, because Marlborough Hospital, the mall, it's a big deal. So that's where I feel they failed. And also, they never really, the police are doing a good job, in my opinion, because the public doesn't know what's actually going on in Marlborough. So I have a lot of issues that are going on. There's
Thank you.
addiction, things like that.
Okay. Mark?
Sure. Katie, I'll ask you this question. In the past 2 years, and as a ward councilor, I respect what they go through. There's a lot of work when you're a ward councilor. There's a lot of work as an at-large councilor too, but especially a ward councilor. What have you done to support our local ward councilors on issues within their districts, within their wards?
I think all of the at-large counselors consistently pay attention to the opinions of the ward counselors. There are eyes and ears for what's happening within those wards. Typically, they would guide us in how we should vote occasionally. I don't vote the way that they do vote, and other people, other at-large counselors may also not vote that same way. Other ward counselors may not vote. But the process is to have them be able to give their input and respect that input and then make a decision.
Is there any follow-up to a question, or no? Yeah. No, and I would only suggest that, and I do this all the time, if there's a ward issue, and I may recognize, I immediately involve the ward counselor, but not just that. There's better opportunity in numbers, and that's why I was asking that question, is do you join in and send an email to the mayor or the DPW? But the answer was there, so thank you.
Scott? Who would you like to ask?
So this one's going to be for Mrs. Roby. My concern is communication from residents to counselors, ward counselors, counselors at large. How do you normally respond, if at all, to residents that email you?
I typically don't get an email from constituents. I'll get a phone call. Occasionally, we do, especially now that the city councilors have our own separate email, not a personal email. Sometimes a constituent would send an email to all of us with a specific concern that I feel is more the purview of the ward counselor or the mayor. So we deal with those. My phone is listed in the city information. The email is there. I welcome input from my constituents, and I always return phone calls if they leave a message on my phone.
Okay, thank you.
Can I just add one more thing? Do you respond at all to it, or you just to an email? I'm just curious.
I will typically respond to an email. The City Council has recently been receiving emails from a constituent that we were advised to stop communicating with from the mayor's office. But I typically at least give them the kindness to know that I have read their concern and can do what I possibly can to help.
So you do respond?
I do.
Okay.
Okay, Katie?
Oh,
Your
my turn.
Yeah, your turn.
Okay. This question is for Councilor Navin. You've spent the last 4 years as a ward councilor working to benefit the residents of Ward 6. What do you see as the differences, challenges being an at-large councilor versus a ward councilor?
Great. Thank you. So, yeah, and, as I noted, it has been a lot of fun these past 4 years. And I had big shoes to fill, taking over for Mr. Clancy when he retired. You know, the job of the ward counselor, some folks have already outlined here, is really to be the resident's voice at City Hall for the particular neighborhood. And when you're looking at the issues that come before the council, whether they be zoning or whether they be infrastructure issues, you're looking at them solely for the lens of that particular part of the city. It is both it can be both very freeing and also very frustrating to only be really looking at it with that dedicated lens. Because sometimes there are things that happen across the city that you perhaps should not be focusing as much on because you want to make sure you're supporting your residents. The benefit for being an at-large counselor, I see, is that you be able to look at things, at policies, zoning, et cetera, from a global scale and be able to make decisions that will impact the entire city for the next generation.
Okay, very good. Okay, Sean, you can start with asking someone on the...
Councilor Oram, what is your number one priority for the council starting on January 1st, 2024?
Well, it was mentioned earlier, more direct communication with the mayor on both ends. I always felt that was lacking, and that has already been mentioned by another person on this panel, on our panel, one of our city councilors. I think that's most important, as well as looking toward having a city planner. I've worked in municipal government, and I've never seen where there's not at least some type of a planner, might be full-time or part-time. And it could have helped us, because it seems like zoning was always on a burden on the council, and we're trying our best, but it would have helped if we had someone assisting us city councilors on issues with zoning.
Okay, thank you. Mark?
Oh, so with that said, that was my question, actually. I led into it. With the changes that we're proposing in zoning, we had quite an interesting evening at the city council meeting with debates from people that were previously on the council or in the chamber supporting what was originally proposed. Now, I wasn't on the council then, but maybe I was at the end of it, but it got proposed around 2012 to 14. With that note, I know there's that resistance, but the question, I guess, will be for, I haven't asked you yet, Sean, what would be your view on moving forward with changing zoning so that it would be more appropriate, especially downtown Village?
Thank you. Yeah, so I also was not on the council in 2014 when the city council created the Marlborough Downtown Village District. When it did so, it created a series of incentives that were aimed at developers that would spur development downtown, which is an admirable goal. I think we all want to see a revitalized downtown. I personally believe that these incentives went a little too far and left the city open to some unintended consequences that could hinder the long-term development and viability of our downtown. This was evident and came to a head when the development for the former Row property came before the City Council. The proposed zoning that we've been working on in the Urban Affairs Committee provides a series of guardrails that will prohibit developers from over-constructing buildings, making them more than 4 stories, and it will also increase the number of parking spaces that they'll be required to have. These are important issues. I think they will actually help the long-term viability of downtown, and I think we should continue to move forward with the process while taking on conversations with the community.
Thank you.
Thank you. Scott?
Sorry, Mr. Oro.
You don't be sorry. I like to talk, actually. So.
Well, my question to you is also similar to the last question. How do you communicate with the residents when you receive an email?
What I do is I always include our city council secretary. I'll send out notice. First, I'll call them, find out what the issue is. But then I'll find out who the ward councilor is if I don't know. And then I'll send out an email to the representative, whoever it might be. Although the mayor frowned on us communicating with department heads. Do you believe that? That was wild. I said, and I've been serving for a long time. I've never seen that happen before. But I still communicate with department heads. And so I would send a collective effort with the city councilor and the secretary, so she has a record of it, with the department head, so we could try to get the problem resolved. We're here to serve our residents. We're not here to not help them. So, we need to move forward. Now, if it was something that involved money, the mayor would probably be involved as well. I'd include him in the email. And that gets the ball rolling to help the resident.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Katie?
Back at me again, huh?
Back to you, huh?
Right. Counselor Ossing.
Yes.
I've heard it said that there isn't a special permit housing plan that you would not support. Is it true? And if so, why?
No, it's not true. I voted against the 57 Main Street project, one that got everybody all riled up on, and I did not support it. So the answer to that question is no.
Okay. Short, sweet.
Yes.
Okay, Michael, your question.
Keep going? Okay. Katie, do you believe the MEDC provides a valuable service to the city?
I do believe they provide a valuable service to the city. I sometimes wish that they worked more with the city council and included us. I know the president of the council sits on the MEDC board. I do wish there was some more communication between what is happening rather than us getting minutes months later to find out what they've been discussing. but their purpose is very important to the city, what they do for the businesses in the city, being able to bring commercial businesses to make sure that that low tax rate for the residents can stay low because of the growth that they are providing for the city. And I really think that was why they were formed back when it was the 2020 or 2010, that their purpose was to bring economic development to the city, and they're doing a great job.
Can I rebut?
Sure.
Add more? So MEDC has basically been the reason why the city's taxes are low. They've done a phenomenal job bringing in business into the community that have contributed to the low tax rate that we have. And the other services that they provide that the city council doesn't take advantage of that they could is planning services. That's why we do not need a city planner in the city. I'll state that right now. Thank you.
Okay, thank you very much. All right, do you want to move to closing? Okay, thank you. Due to time, I think we're going to move on to your closing statements. And I said before, we're going to go in reverse order. So, Mark?
Well, thank you,
You
Darlene.
you get to start.
Thank you. And knowing the time is being checked here, I'll just say that Marlborough is a terrific location. It was mentioned by a previous debate that we have water, we have sewer, and we have access to some great highway systems. And going to mass municipal meetings, it's been said that businesses are attracted to that type of situation. Even if your taxes are higher, they want to be where there's water, sewer, and access to highways. So it's not all about MEDC sending them in. It's about us. We're in a perfect location. We're the star on the map in Massachusetts, in my view. And the other note I wanted to make in my closing is that the council works best when we work collectively. I know it was mentioned that I did this, I did that. Well, we all know we work best when we work collectively. And with that, the growth of Marlborough needs need to be carefully voted by the City Council. I've kind of mentioned that. I will continue to promote appropriate growth and consider the various needs of increased growth. I take into consideration the impact on the proposed developments, such as Lincoln and Mechanic. That's going to be a traffic nightmare. You wait till the 200 and something residents are there. It'll be a nightmare. And to make sure the neighborhoods are protected. I think they need a voice in all this. We got to consider parking, which that Lincoln Mechanic had the parking, but some Main Street projects don't. Serving as one of your city councilors at large is a privilege. It is a privilege, and my voting record shows my concerns and support for our educational resources, elderly services, and our safety needs. I have always and will always bear my allegiance to our community residents. They come first. They're out there voting for us and trusting us with what they wish to have us do. Again, I will offer my experience and my professional background in public health and leadership. I've taken leadership courses, and I've taken up to 6 masters in public administration to serve our residents. With that said, I request your vote to allow me the privilege to continue to be one of your city councils at large. Please cast your vote, one of your votes at least, for Mark Oram for city council at large on Tuesday, November 7th, less than 2 weeks away. Thank you.
Thank you. Sean?
Thank you, Darlene, and Bob, and Julie, and Emily. Thanks to the Chamber, again, for stepping forward to organize all of these debates. Thank you especially to all of you who have taken the time to watch. As I said in my opening statement, I truly believe that local government has the greatest impact on our everyday lives. It is so important to be able to learn more about the candidates running to represent you and how each of us would make the decisions that are going to impact you. Since first pulling papers to run for councilor at large in May, I've had the opportunity to engage in countless conversations with folks in our community, while knocking on doors, making phone calls, attending many of our community events, and even while grocery shopping. Many of the topics that we have discussed here tonight are the concerns that I consistently hear from people about our city and its future. However, I've also learned through these conversations and my time on the council that what people are most interested in is making sure that there's someone at the other end of the phone when they have a question or a concern. They want to know that their counselor hears them and will put in the work to help them find an answer to their question. For the past 4 years, I've proudly been that counselor for the residents of Ward 6. The experience that I've gained as ward counselor and in my 20 years of public sector service has helped me develop the skills to address these concerns, instilled in me the importance of effective and efficient constituent services, and has helped me focus on the issues that I'm passionate about. issues that I believe make our city stronger and more sustainable. Responsible economic development, infrastructure investment, helping our aging and vulnerable residents, supporting our students, protecting our environment, and keeping property taxes reasonable. I look forward to continuing the work we've started and building on these skills and experiences to serve our broader community. I love our city. I'm proud of the progress we've made in these areas, and even more, I'm excited by our potential. I still believe that Marlborough's best days are ahead of us, and that we succeed when we work together. I hope you'll join us, and I respectfully ask for your vote on November 7th. Thank you.
Thank you. Michael?
I treat every request to spend your money seriously. I have the ability to say no, like 57 Main Street, and not rubber stamp every request that comes down from the mayor or the city council. Little experiment. Reach into your pocket, pull out your wallet or your purse. Now look at the candidates.
Pull up my phone.
Or your
My
phone.
new wallet.
Now look at the candidates. Who do you trust with your money? The councilors you elect will be spending your hard-earned money. You will need to decide which councilor at large do you trust with your money. I offer the citizens of Marlborough a council that is independent. I have accepted no money from individuals or special interest groups. I've used my money to run the campaign, not yours. Your money belongs in your pocket. This enables me to focus my energies on what is in the best interest of the city and not returning political favors or debts. I believe in spending my own money to demonstrate my commitment to the voters that I am worthy of representing the residents of Marlborough as their councilor at large. My peers like spending your money. The city will be entering a new chapter this year, or next year, with a mayor that does not have the financial background or leadership skills Marlborough residents have been accustomed to. Recognizing the new mayor will not have the experience in city finances and leadership skills, having a councilor at large with that experience will be vital for the city to continue to have the lowest tax rate around while providing outstanding services that make Marlborough the greatest city to live, work, and play. You have a unique opportunity on November 7th to select the team that will be representing the city. I want to be on that team. Please vote for Michael Ossing, Councilor at Large, on November 7th. Thank you for listening.
Thank you. Katie?
Thank you. At a recent Women Elected Municipal Official event, I attended. The keynote speaker, former acting Governor Jane Swift, told attendees we needed to focus, similar to a question that was asked by to the ward councilors, our why. We needed to focus on our why. Why did we run for office? I served for 16 years on the Marlborough School Committee. What was my why? I wanted to be an active and committed voice helping make our school system a well-run and effective means of providing Marlborough's children with a quality education. In 2011, I ran for one of the 4 at-large seats on the City Council. What was my why? To bring value to the office through my experience on the school committee. For the past 12 years, I'm proud to serve as one of your at-large counselors. I have kept my promise to do my homework, read the documents, make the calls, talk to people, listen to people, and find the answers while working as hard as possible to balance not just the schools, but all the needs of our city with the resources we have at our disposal. On Tuesday, November 7th, the voters of Marlborough will go to the polls to effect change in the city, a new mayor, and an unknown number of new city councilors. My why hasn't changed. I remain an active and committed voice for the citizens of our great city, ready to keep asking questions and finding answers. I'm a proven leader who is ready to help these new councilors navigate this new landscape. I want to continue working as hard as possible with the next administration as we continue to balance the needs of the city with the resources we have. My name is Kathleen Roby, and I humbly ask for your vote on Tuesday, November 7th, to continue serving as one of your at-large councilors.
Thank you. And Scott?
So I decided to change my closing statement. I just wanted to address a few things. The fire station on the west side that needs to be built, I'd like to open that up to the public when I get in, if I get in. I have a bunch of ideas for that, maybe a substation, and that we need to, if we build a fire station, we need to have employees in the fire station, which we're lacking of right now with the stations we have. My experience as a police officer, soldier, school resource officer, real estate agent has prepared me to adapt, embrace, and resolve the issues that are best for all involved. And that's my concern, is all involved. Everybody needs to get involved in this. I took a step out of my comfort zone and decided to run for councilor at large. I could have ran for my ward, but I wanted to be a part of the whole city, so I did it. I look forward to November 7th. If you want to know any more information about me, please go on my website. It's www.kingatlarge.com. I'm on Facebook. I have a personal account. If you want to look me up, look me up. Those that know me know I'm a hard worker and I do what I say, and my name means everything to me. Thank you.
Thank you. I'd like to thank all of you. It was a great debate. And I want to ask Steve. Steve's going to come up and give a little bit of closing here.
We didn't get a big applause, that's not good.
Thank you. Before I wrap up this debate session, I wanted to make a couple of announcements. First, the early voting will be available for 1 week prior to the municipal election, scheduled for Tuesday, November 7th. Marlborough residents can early vote at City Hall, 140 Main Street, during the following times: Saturday, October 28th, from 9 a.m. to 3 p.m., Monday, October 30th, from 9 a.m. to 6 p.m., Tuesday, October 31st, from 9 a.m. to 4 p.m., Wednesday, November 1st, from 7 a.m. to 4 p.m., Thursday, November 2nd, from 9 a.m. to 4 p.m., and Friday, November 3rd, from 7 a.m. to 4 p.m. Of course, if you have not made your decision with respect to our mayoral candidates, I certainly recommend that you tune in here next week, Wednesday, November 1st. We'll be holding the mayoral debates on WMCT-TV right here again, and we certainly we ask you to tune in if you haven't made that decision. Additionally, we have had requests from people in the community to ask questions, to provide questions for the mayoral debate. You can do so by submitting them to marlcham, M-A-R-L-C-H-A-M, at marlboroughchamber.org. We obviously are not going to be able to have all the questions asked, but certainly we welcome your input, and we'll do our best to put those questions in front of our candidates next Wednesday evening. In closing, I want to thank our candidates, both from at large as well as the ward candidates, for being here and presenting their sides of the story and how they plan on supporting the city of Marlborough. I want to thank our panelists, as well as our moderator, Darlene, and of course, Emily, our timekeeper extraordinaire. One of the things I would like to say in what I've been watching this tonight is as a son of a veteran, I'm immensely appreciative of the support that the ward councilor candidates have offered, as well as the councilors here have offered for veterans in our community. It is something that I am proud to be a son of a vet, and also proud to be a family member of several veterans, cousins, uncles, that type of thing. Interestingly enough, November for the Marlborough Chamber is Veterans Month. It's not just a Veterans Day that we're celebrating. We talked about the Veterans event on November 9th. Certainly, I encourage anybody who wants to support our veterans to please look at our events page of the Marlborough Chamber website, marlboroughchamber.org/events. Register for that wonderful event at the American Heritage Museum in Hudson. It's a great way to honor our veterans. But additionally, I'm calling for veterans to share their stories. During the month of November, we will be sharing veteran stories on social media, LinkedIn, Facebook, and so forth. And I want to interview veterans to have them share their experience for serving in the armed forces and what it's meant to them in their life, as well as to their country, in terms of serving their country. So I welcome those people who would like to share their story in a 3 to 5 minute little video interview to reach out again through Marlcham at marlboroughchamber.org. We'll certainly entertain anybody we can, and I'm sure there'll be a lot of interest, and we've had already a lot of interest of that. So I welcome those opportunities to talk with veterans and present them to our community. Last but not least, I want to thank, again, all of our candidates for being here. I want to thank our panelists, our moderator, and our timekeeper once again. Thank WMCT-TV, and just in general, thank the community for the opportunity to present this debate to you. We are honored to do so, and we're proud supporters of the city of Marlborough and the residents in the community. So thank you, and that concludes this evening's debates.
Thank you.